Call the meeting to order. May I remind everyone to please put their cell phones on silence so we have no interruptions. I appreciate that. You please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Paul,
Here.
Vice Mayor Whitman,
Here.
Councilmember Hatton, here. Councilmember Starkey,
Here.
Councilmember Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Lamack,
Here.
Mr. Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Holste,
Here.
Mr. Weinthal.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We start off the meeting tonight with the public comments. This is what we usually do the first meeting of the month, and since we had a little break, this is the first meeting of the month, and then we'll have another one next week. But we reserve this for public comment. Speakers will not be limited to the number of topics. However, discussion will not be permitted on any item on the agenda for public hearing. Speakers may speak on the items on tonight's agenda when the item is announced pursuant to the present policy. You'll be limited to 3 minutes to address the council, and we'll start with the front row. If there's anybody, or just raise your hand if you want to participate in the public's portion of the, sir, in the back. Come on up, state your name and address. And like they do on the game shows, the clock won't start until you say your first word.
Okay. My name is Jim Atkinson. I live at 2750 Southwest 116th Avenue there in Majestic Groves. My topic is Airbnbs. I think it's been just a little over a year since the town passed an ordinance related to some form of regulation or restrictions on the Airbnbs. I know it makes several requirements related to noise, number of people, number of cars, parking, things of that nature, and all these things can lead to violations. And upon the third violation, according to the ordinance, it says that they shall suspend the certificate of the rental for certain time periods. My particular problem is my unit next door to me. They started in October. They probably had 50 people there since in the 10 months. I've had one case go before the special magistrate, but I've considered that there's probably, in my opinion, 23 to 24 violations have occurred. These units still aren't registered as far as I understand. I've had some discussions with Danny Stallone with code enforcement. I know they're working on getting a form fee for the registration. I would just urge people to expedite. I'm a little disappointed that it's taken over a year to get to this point, but it's basically ruined, let me put it this way, it's ruined my wife's life, which ruins my life, okay? So I'm really I know that there's limited ability in what the town can do, but if they actually enforce the ordinance, I've had police out probably 5 times. I'm one of those people who would tend to like to resolve things myself, but it upsets my wife. So we call the police, and most of the problems occur long after business hours. You know, they're not 8 to 5 problems, they're midnight problems. So I'm just looking for basically that the police, when they come out, they haven't issued any citations. So I'm basically on the starting clock, and we'd just like some direction of where the town might go. Not expecting a reply tonight, but where the town might be going in terms of Airbnbs, and having the police who do come out issue citations or some form that can be followed up on. and I'll quit. Thank you.
Mr. Lemack, maybe you or Moss can give him your card so that you can have some direct contact. Yes, sir. I believe if you're going to be talking about what your sign says, that's on the agenda for later, so
Gotcha.
that will be brought up later for you
Sounds
to
good.
talk.
Yeah, I'll talk about that when the time comes.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Oh, you've got something else?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, council members. My name is Santiago Arroyo, co-owner of Tree Amigos Growers in Davie, located at 10900 Southwest 48th Street. I'm here to speak on behalf of Farmer Barbara McKenzie and future Davie farmers.
This is what's going to be discussed later.
I mean, this is just nothing to do with zoning variances or anything like that.
It's on the agenda. The farming options are on the agenda.
The option 37, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay,
So you can wait until that comes up.
sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Keep it all together. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, if not, we'll close the public comments portion of the meeting and go on to presentations. I'm very thrilled tonight, and I see two young gentlemen out there. I have a mayor's scholarship, and every year I present scholarships to seniors that are going on to college. And one of the recipients from Nova High School was here at the last meeting, but the two gentlemen from Western High School weren't able to make it because that was the night of their graduation. So we have them here tonight. I know they've both gotten their checks already, and I'm sure it's well thought out how it's already probably going to be spent. But I'd like to introduce, would Nicholas Christia come up? Good evening.
Good evening.
Nicholas has lived in Davie his entire life. I met Nicholas when he was in the 3rd grade during the annual Government Week tours at Town Hall. And I'm sure you were in my office and had many questions, right?
Yes, back then.
Since then, he's gone on to become a seasonal lifeguard with the town of Davie since 2020. Nicholas will continue his education at the University of Florida, where he plans to attend the Rinker School of Construction. Nicholas's dream job is to construct new residential projects or office buildings like the new town hall in Davie. So he wants to be involved in the public administration part of it, but in the construction area. So we want to welcome you here tonight and congratulate you on being one of our scholarship winners, and all the luck in the world as you go on to college. And I'm sure you'll follow your dream.
Thank you very much.
If
Appreciate it.
You want to say a few words? Because your parents are taping this, so
I'll say a couple words.
Okay.
Growing up here my whole life, working here for the past couple of years, I've had nothing but good experiences with all the people I've met. I've had a lot of fun in my childhood in this town. It was great working here, making connections and networking with all the other workers here, town personnel, and I would just like to thank the town of Davie for everything it has done for me in these last couple of years.
and I'm sure from the way you speak, you're going to go far. Sounding very, 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 very professional.
Thank you,
very
Mayor.
much. And then Alex Soto. Good evening, Alex.
Good evening.
Also a longtime Davie resident who grew up playing organized sports at Bamford Sports Complex, where he realized that sports are more than just playing a game. He learned the importance of teamwork, accountability, leadership, respect, and patience. Alex now coaches his younger siblings alongside his father. He also participated in the PAL summer program in Davie, not only as a camper, but now as a counselor. He's also active in the Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranches Mentorship Program and the Junior ROTC at Western High School. Alex aspires to become an EMT and firefighter in the town of Davie. Before you leave, the fire chief is right back there. You might want to stop and say a few words and introduce yourself.
I'll probably introduce myself a little bit.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yes. I would like to thank you importantly for giving me this scholarship and having me apply. I would also like to thank my dad over there for helping me get to where I am now, and everyone else who unfortunately couldn't come today, but they have also helped me a lot throughout high school and to get where I am now.
Good job. We'll be looking for you in that uniform. Thank you. It's always great to be able to highlight the young people in our community that work so hard as a volunteer, in some cases as a paid worker, and it's just great. I love every minute of it, and I really appreciate that you were able to come tonight. Thank you very much. We're going to also now go on to presentation number 2. Yeah, we're going to get pictures. Parents can go too. Take one of the 2 boys and then let the parents get in the picture as well. And we have it for posterity, right? I see I'm calling on Mr. Lewis.
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
To do the Town Employee and Department Awards and Recognitions.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, staff, and those in attendance. My name is Marciano Lewis. I'm the Deputy Town Administrator, and thank you for indulging me tonight on this portion of the agenda. You may see a few firefighters or fire staff on the right side over there, and you'll be amazed. They actually got another award. I mean, I know you can't believe it, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Actually, they have a number of awards. So I want to take this opportunity to just read a few. There were some other departments that actually got awards, so it's just not fire today. But we'll start off with our big fish, the fire department. And Chief, if you want to make your way around, if you can get you and your staff behind here, at least you can be seen. And I'll start off with the Fire Chiefs Association of Broward County Mike Murphy Innovator of the Year Award. Captain Michael Alfano received the Fire Chiefs Association of Broward County Mike Murphy Innovator of the Year Award for 2022. Captain Alfano received this award because his work in developing a sensory kit that will be used for distraction/calming of anxious patients under the fire rescue care, especially those with autism. He's also developing a training program to increase awareness to firefighter paramedics on changes that can be made while providing care to those with autism to reduce stress. The model that he's developing along with Battalion Chief Romney Benham has been recognized by agencies throughout Broward County and received funding from the Broward Healthcare Coalition to fund the kits for all the fire rescue agencies and all the hospital emergency rooms in the county. In addition, Davie Fire Rescue Advanced Life Support Competition team has placed in the top 3 for the past 3 competitions. The team consisted of firefighters Andrew LeMay, Kirion Baddeley, David Seal, and Jordan DeLeon. These ALS competitions present teams with complex emergency scenarios that mimic real-life incidents. The team members are judged individually and collectively as they examine, treat, and diagnose their respective patients. The crews are also judged on time, skills, and overall knowledge of the incident presented to them. We're very proud of our ALS team for their achievements during these competitions. We're also proud of how they bring that commitment to excellence into our community every day.
Hold that high. Hold that trophy high.
And finally, in the fire department, the Davie Fire Rescue receives American Heart Association Mission Lifeline EMS Gold Plus Recognition Award. On June 22nd, 2022, Davie Fire Rescue was notified that we received the American Heart Association's, also known as AHA, Mission Lifeline EMS Gold Plus Award for implementing quality improvement measures for the treatment of patients who experience severe heart attacks. The AHA recognizes that pre-hospital personnel are the first providers of care to patients suffering from heart attack and are an integral part of the heart attack system of care impacting the overall care and outcome of the patient. This achievement illustrates a commitment to providing guidelines-based care while meeting high standards of performance. Fire Department. I'll have Chief Downey come up. Just a few words.
Good evening. Thank you very much for that presentation, and thank you for the acknowledgement. I'd like to call Captain Alfano up to actually show the project that he created, and along with Battalion Chief Romney Benham, that got the acknowledgement. So, Captain Alfano, thank you.
Thank you all very much. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Chief Downey and her amazing staff for all their support, especially Chief Benham. Without him, we couldn't have made this possible. Started out as a relatively small project that we thought would just kind of be for Davie, and then it really blossomed into something much bigger. So it's pretty special. But these are the sensory kits. They're going to go on all our rescue trucks, along hopefully with, like Chief said, 300 other rescue trucks in the county, and who knows where it'll go from there. So I'm super happy about it. I'm excited. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Romney. I'd like to dedicate this to my son, Jace. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My name is Firefighter Andrew LeMay. On behalf of the ALS competition team, I want to say thank you, Mayor Paul, thank you, Town Council and Town Administrator, as well as our fire admin, Chief Downey. The continued support to allow us to compete and represent the town is very much appreciated to better ourselves in competition as well as day-to-day on the trucks.
I thought you would really like one of the awards they got was the Western Belt Buckle when they placed first. So I told them they could wear
That's
them.
nice.
I thought you all would like the award. That's an amazing trophy. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's nice that we have a good audience tonight so you can see how safe everybody is in Davie. We have one of the best, or probably the best, fire department in the state. We have received more awards in the last 2 years. I think every award that is given for a firefighter or a fire department has been received by the town of Davie. So we really appreciate all their hard work and thank them for everything.
Mayor, if it's okay with you, I'll move on while.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. I know it always seems like fire gets all the awards, but we actually have a couple other departments.
Good.
Is the next one up? Our next award recognition I'm very proud of. This is from our fleet division. And we haven't gotten this award in some time now, but just this year we're named one of the 100 best fleet in the Americas by NAFA, this organization. The 100 Best Fleets in Americas program recognizes peak performing fleet operations. This program identifies and encourages the ever-increasing levels of performance improvement and innovation within the public fleet industry. The 100 Best Fleets competition is judged based on a 12 criteria for excellence, all of which encompass the qualities of high-performing fleet. The judging is heavily weighted on innovation and creativity in how you employ these qualities in our operation. And a lot of this has to do with Stephen Bush. If I can have Stephen come over, he's our fleet manager. He's been with us a few years now, and he's taken on the reins. And he's been pushing for some time now for this award, and also some of the accomplishments that we've seen in our fleet area. So I just want to recognize Stephen for this accomplishment. He said he's okay. So
Well, at
Stephen,
least we'll get a picture.
Okay. Moving on. Moving on to our IT department. Nelson Martinez actually came in today on his day off, so we couldn't ask many IT-related questions, but we did want to recognize him for two very significant credentials. The first is the CGCIO, also known as the Certified Government Chief Information Officer Certification, which is a nationally accredited credential that equips IT leaders with the requisite tools to manage and improve their organizational technology assets. Participants who obtain this certification have demonstrated and shown extensive expertise across major topics, including IT governance, project management, leadership, risk assessment, and management. Additionally, currently there are only 215 government IT professionals statewide that currently hold this IT leadership credential. Kudos to Nelson. Second recognition for Mr. Martinez is the CISSP, is one of the most sought after internationally recognized professional certifications available in the security industry. The acronym CISSP stands for Certified Information Systems Security Professional, and it was created in 1994 to demonstrate that a security professional can design, engineer, implement, and run the information security program. Individuals who obtain this credential have communicated a solid understanding across several security-related domains, which are security and risk management, asset security, security architecture and engineering, communication and network security, identity and access management, security assessment and testing, security operations, and software development. Again, kudos to Mr. Martinez. You want to come up?
Unaccustomed as he is to public speaking.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, my peers, administration, I want to say that, I'm a man of very few words, right? So I'll try to keep it short. But I do want to say that I stand here truly humbled, and I really appreciate the fact that the town decided to take some time and recognize some of my accomplishments. But I think that I also need to take this opportunity to also recognize a few folks of my own. Starting with our council, with our administration, especially with our peers that have put up with a lot for me over the last 7 years since I've been here. We've made a lot of changes in the right direction. And I also want to recognize my wife. It's been a lot of long hours, and she's been very patient through the whole process. But ultimately, we've come a long way in the last 7 years since I've been here, and I'm very proud to be a member of this organization. Truthfully, I can say that this is one of the few organizations I've had the pleasure to work with where everyone is really on the same page and is really a team. I got to say, I can't say it enough. It's been a pleasure to work here the last 7 years, and I'm looking forward to continue to work here into the future. We've accomplished quite a bit over the last 7 years, and we've still got quite a bit more that we're going to accomplish going forward. So it's truly, again, I'm humbled, and I just want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you for the support of everyone in this room. And I'll continue to do as much as I can to support our residents, our constituents, and all the peers and personnel of the town of Davie. So thank you very much.
More?
There's more.
Good.
It's been a good year so far. All right. And moving on to our police department. Our very own Chief Kinsey was appointed as a board member of the Florida Missing Children's Day, aka the MFCD Foundation, which was established to provide assistance, funding, and promotional support for activities to raise awareness about Florida's missing children and educate the public on child safety and abduction prevention. Of note, in 2021, Florida had approximately 25,262 active missing children cases opened, and half that number for adults. Also, Chief Kinsey was appointed to the Brard's Executive Board as a Sergeant at Arms. In January 2023, he will be moved up to the position of Treasurer. Chief Kinsey. Come over. You good?
He's shy.
Yeah.
We can take a picture, though.
Go ahead, yeah. And for our Public Works Department, our Assistant Director of Public Works, Beatrice Alvarez, was elected by her peers as the chairperson of the American Public Works Association, also known as APWA, of the South Florida branch. The branch represents public works professionals within Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Monroe County, and Puerto Rico. The South Florida branch has 246 public works professional members. Members include public works directors, assistant directors, engineers, maintenance employees, and other public works professionals. She was elected for a 2-year term beginning in April of 2022 and ended in April of 2024. The APWA mission is to unify the public works organization of South Florida District Branch throughout Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe counties and Puerto Rico by providing leadership, developing educational programs, and offering direction and support on public works issues to all members, elected officials, and the public. Public Works is proud to be the first and last responders during times of severe weather and natural disasters. Please recognize Beatrice Alvarez. She's here. Come on up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and administration. Thank you all for your support and recognition. I'm being elected as the chair of the South Florida branch of American Public Works Association. It's an honor to have been selected, as well as it's been an honor to work with the town of Davie. It is now an honor to be representing the town of Davie in this new role. I would also like to thank my director, Osdel Larea, all of my fellow colleagues in Public Works, all the other departments in the town who continuously help me on a daily basis, and last but not least, my very handsome husband who's here, who always helps and supports me on a daily basis as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Mayor and council members, this recognition is for a special young lady that actually works in administration, our very own Suzette Rodriguez.
Yay!
Suzette, our public relations coordinator at the town of Davie, recently graduated with high honors from the Florida International University School of Business with a Master's of Science in Marketing. In 10 months, she completed over 1,500 hours of coursework learning new digital marketing tactics, brand development strategies, and marketing analytics. During this time, she also earned her certification in Google Ads and Analyticals Tableau, interactive sales, and received a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification, a process that teaches one management skills, leadership, risk assessment, financial, and team building skills. Go Suzette.
It's my first time up here. This is great. Thank you guys so much. I couldn't have done it with the support of all of you guys. 1,500 hours is a lot. It was probably a little more than that too. So thank you for pushing me through those many sleepless nights and me working through the smile on my face. But it was so much fun, and I can't wait to implement all the things I've learned here. Thanks.
Congratulations. Wonderful. again, it's really great to see all these accomplishments, isn't it? Okay. We need to go on to now the approval of the consent agenda. I don't see any items that are to be tabled or withdrawn, is that correct? Okay. I'm going to be pulling items 20, 21, and 22 to be discussed during the public hearing, with 26, 30, 31, 32, and 37. Anybody else have anything?
I'm good.
You have anything to pull? No? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, less 20, 21, and 22?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. And then we'll go on to the public hearings. We have a young couple here with a variance that have requested to go first in the public hearing. That's item number 33. I'm going to take that first. Just have to find it. Yeah, I got it. 33 is a variance. Mr. Weinthal, has the quasi been waived?
Yes, Mayor, quasi has been waived on all items.
Okay, thank you. It's a public hearing. Would you please read the title?
Yes, Mayor. Variance, a resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, taking final action on variance application V22065 Marconi, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Anybody that wishes to speak, this is a public hearing. Anybody that wishes to speak for or against can come forward at this time. Mr. Marconi, I suppose you want to say.
Distinguished council members, I'm here to answer any questions you might have regarding that.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
I don't. Does anybody
No.
have any questions?
No.
No questions?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing then.
Thank you.
May I have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved to approve.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Paul,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis, Councilmember Starkey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman,
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Did that help you? You may leave. You're fine to go. You've been approved. Okay, now. Okay. I'm going to, because of the number of people here, for this, the reserve, I'm going to take all those items next. But prior to having the presentation by the, Mr. Backman, I guess, is doing the presentation, Mr. Lemack, I would like to call on you. Number 37, I'm moving it up for the farming options. What?
Mayor, there's one more variance, that's NSU variance number 34.
Right.
It probably can be disposed of pretty quickly.
Well, I already
because-
started this, so I'll do it.
Okay.
She can wait. She can pay.
I tried. You know, I tried. 3 of you versus 33 of everyone. I don't know. I look at the number. Sorry.
We're on 37, Mr. Lemack's farming options under.
Mayor, council members, members of the public staff, good evening. Richard Lemack, Town Administrator. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss potential public sites for farming. A brief background, though, before we start. At the May 18th, 2022 Town Council meeting, Mayor Paul had requested and sought Town Council support for consideration of Robbins Park for farming opportunities. This exploration was supported by Town Council, and direction was provided to me to conduct the review. Subsequently, at the June 8, 2022 Town Council meeting, Councilmember Lewis revisited the mayor's suggestion and led a discussion regarding the Governor Leroy Collins Farm Park or the expansion properties as sites that should also be considered for farming purposes. Town Council also supported the exploration of those sites as well. On June 22, 2022, myself and Assistant Town Administrator Philip Holste made a presentation to the Agricultural and Environmental Advisory Committee. I may refer to that as the Ag Board as we go through the presentation, where a motion was made, and it was unanimously supported to ask you, Town Council, through Mayor Paul, to explore and conduct the due diligence for the 10-acre site for the Governor Leroy Collins expansion parcel to be used for farming in lieu of Robbins Preserve and the farm park. I would like to share with you a summary of the presentation with the Ag Board that led to this recommendation. The brief history, the concept of farming, including the retention and/or expansion of the industry, is not new to the town of Davie. This discussion may have been recently renewed by the Morse property proposed development at Flamingo and Orange Drive that you'll be, as you know, considering following this presentation. But that should have been no surprise to anyone, as the property has been sale for over 15 years, had a previous developmental approval, and has drawn the attention of numerous investors through the years for various commercial and mixed-use projects. However, the town's other commitment to agriculture through the years has been the Governor Leroy Collins Farm Park, which is in the design development phase. The town had purchased the Batten's property, formerly from Harry Batten, back in 2007 with the 2006 Broward County Open Space Bond, and we have been leasing that for farm purposes. The town has leased a portion of the Davie Wetlands Park, now known as the Van Kirk parcel, to a group of farmers until the grant requirements call for their relocation. The town has also leased the Ivanhoe FP&L easement south of Waverly Park for farming, and we currently have a community garden at Robbins Preserve or Robbins Park. Although the town council had suggested that we review the sites you'll see listed here as Robbins Park and Governor Leroy Park and the expansion piece, I thought it would be appropriate to analyze additional public sites for others that may not be familiar with the background or the current status of those properties. So for those who did not or could not attend the Ag Committee meeting, and for consistency tonight with what I presented them, I want to provide that similar update. So the sites we also looked at was Davie Wetlands Park, Ivanhoe FP&L easement, and Morondo Farms, just to give a historical perspective of those sites. Davie Wetlands Park, we'll start there. This is a 115-acre site that was not recommended by staff for consideration. This parcel was purchased in 2004 in partnership with the state of Florida, Broward County, and the town also participated in the purchase. The town committed to a number of developmental elements in the management plan, including wetlands, uplands, trails, stormwater retention, just to remember a few, as part of the property acquisition. There have been numerous community meetings. The site has been cleared, a design concept presented, and the town is in discussions for the next development phase. The next site is the Ivanhoe FP&L easement site. This site is under the power lines. This site is also not recommended for consideration. This is an 8-acre site that was donated specifically for park purposes as part of the Ivanhoe development. It was previously operated by a local group of farmers that had to be relocated from the Van Kirk piece, but a single road access through a residential community was a major concern for the neighbors. There were also extensive complaints regarding odor from the fertilization, noise, and equipment, as well as storage. The community had expressed that they had another large farming operation that was contiguous to this site in Southwest Ranches and felt that it was too much acreage in one area. This parcel is also adjacent to the very active Waverly Park, and the residents voiced that the added activity was not envisioned before they purchased their homes, which is in a planned development community, and farming operations was never a consideration. The Ivanhoe community residents demanded that the farming operations cease and the park remain for its intended purposes, and as such, the lease had been terminated. The next site is the Mirando Farm site. This site is also not recommended for consideration. This 10-acre parcel is under a long-term lease agreement. It has limited size for additional crops due to the requirement that Mirando Farms must fulfill. This property is being used for farming and animals in compliance with the grant management plan from Broward County's open space bond. Mirando Farms purchases from local growers. They have a requirement as well to teach children about animals and agriculture, and they conduct educational workshops. I now want to talk to one of Council's recommendations, which was Robbins Park. Robbins Park is also not recommended by staff, but I would like to go into the details, although you recommended that for exploration of why. This park is comprised of 160 acres, of which 93 are used for grazing for cattle. The remaining open space is comprised of a lodge, playgrounds, restroom, community garden, the proposed future site plan for the police-mounted stables, and a residential police officer to live on the property, all due to the increased activity at the park. Access is also severely challenged here by only one single ingress and egress. The grazing acreage has a user's agreement that went through a request for proposal or an RFP process. It was approved by town council with Little Critters, who utilizes this acreage for their cattle. This agreement requires Little Critters to conduct educational programs, and they are responsible for certain maintenance responsibilities. They are located on the 3 areas of the park that include 3 donkeys for the purpose of keeping coyotes and dogs out of the pasture. There are 10 on the 10 cattle on the northwest smaller portion known as Area 1 on the map. They have 16 on the southwest pasture known in Area 2. And there's 25 cattle on the southeast pasture you'll see as Area 3. Depending on the time of year, each animal requires 3 acres per cow for sustainability. All the acreage is required to sustain this number of cattle. Any change in the required agreement we have would require legal action to terminate the lease and the user agreement. The result would only be displacing one agricultural action for another, and there will be no other place that we have for public open space to put the cattle on. This other issues for this particular site is that we use this site, as you all know, others may not, as a hurricane horse release site, should that opportunity, and we've faced that before for the release program. Something else that we don't think about as well is that the remaining space in the park is for a host of other recreational and rental activities, and it averages 66,000 users annually, plus 290 rentals at the lodge, patio, pavilion shelters. That doesn't include some of the drop-in activities such as families enjoying playgrounds, bicyclists, walkers, South Florida trail riders we know are there, the private horse owners, and as well as other ranchers that come to use that for riding. We know the number of photographers that come out there and the film industry that has used that in addition to those sites. So for that, all those reasons was one of the reasons that staff did not recommend that for consideration. I will transition now to the Governor Leroy Collins Farm Park. The slide is an aerial view of Governor Leroy Collins Farm Park. Although this 53-acre site appears large, when you consider the proposed site plan, and I'm going to show that on the next slide, you'll see a better visual overview of the plan. On this slide, I would really ask that you take note of the upper section where approximately 20 acres are planned for stormwater retention and existing wetlands, a necessity for the development of the park. The remaining 30 acres is taken up by the required management plan and has certain requirements to the grant when we had purchased the property. If we can look at the next slide, you'll see that it showcases the farm park, the site plan, and the management plan in both phases 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 being the management plan requirements, phase 2 being the community input amenities. As you can see, the plan uses a vast amount of the land to fulfill the grant requirements. There may be acreage available, but until the plans are finalized, we will not have the exact number. So what we did then was look at two different opportunities here. We looked at one is the opportunities to considering Governor Leroy Farm Park, and also I'll go over those and then I'll share with you the challenges. So on the opportunity side, there may be 10 acres available in the future for available farming. The grant is capable, but there are requirements should we use that for educational purposes in order to meet the grant. It meets all the aspect of the farm park project, and the other opportunities would be for whether we wanted to have one or multiple farmers to be able to use that area. I'd like to talk about the challenges that we have identified. The site plan has not been finalized with regards to the wetlands or the retention area that I mentioned. That could impact the 10 acres. What it could also do is that space was in discussion for any energy opportunities that we could find through FP&L. More difficult is the timing. It's not scheduled to begin construction for another year with an 18-month build-out. Lastly, there'd have to be additional funding that would be needed for site prep and road access to be able to go through the park, to be able to get to this particular farming areas. Lastly, as we've had several meetings with the community on the particular project that they've embraced, in our true way of transparency, we would have to go back out, meet with them again for any change to the plans that we've already presented. So now what I'd like to do is talk about the last piece. And I'm going to focus now on the Governor Leroy Collins farm park expansion piece. There has always been some confusion between the farm park piece and the expansion piece. They are separate and have different restrictions, opportunities, and challenges. You'll see that it appears on the picture you're seeing that there's a lot more land available for use. However, as I've identified, the Blackstone Creek 5 acres are committed to them for stormwater retention with their future development, as also with a cul-de-sac easement, all labeled on the screen that you can see. The bottom of the picture outlines in red an area being incorporated into Farm Park, as I mentioned, for a combination of setbacks and for the future Blackstone residential development, and also potentially for the park's needs for water retention and wetlands. What this leaves is a 10-acre site that's labeled up there for potential farming up on the left side of your picture. So if we look at the opportunities for this particular site, as mentioned, it has 10 acres on it. The timing for this site, if approved, the process could start much sooner than the farm park. It's also possible to reallocate funds to clear the land. We're estimating it right now very roughly at about $250,000, but that could happen. The challenges on the other side are right now there's currently no access to the parcel. In the public participation meeting with the neighbors, the same thing. We'd have to have the change of what the land use is, so we would go out and we would talk back with the neighbors. And also the use of this may require a public education component as well. Therefore, based on the analysis and considering the timing, cost, geographics, the location, the Ag Board selected that the expansion piece property be the preferred measure or the preferred site to continue. I just want to add that since we have done this, I haven't been able to talk to the Ag Board members, but one challenge that we were able to really overcome is that we have secured that our bond covenants and that we went back and looked at, that the bond attorneys have told us that we could proceed to use the 10-acre site for the presentation that I've made, should that be the selected option. So there would be no affront to our bond covenant. The next slide, I just want to tell you where we are and the additional information of the expansion piece. So we went back to Black Hawk Creek. We asked about the property for additional farming to see if we could maybe acquire that piece, both for access and additional land. The property is not for sale. We are seeking from them, though, temporary access through their property to get to the expansion piece that would allow us the ability to expeditiously clear the land and potentially use that until they have either the opportunity to do their own development or until Farm Park starts the its development phase and we could get access through another area. So we are discussing that potential access area with our architect, MC Harry, for that opportunity, depending on council's direction. Funding to clear the land could be allocated in our fiscal year 2023 capital improvement plan. And staff is already discussing the development or request for proposal and RFP for farming if we move forward for that piece. And with that RFP comment, I just want to go ahead and make sure everybody understands that this piece would have to go through the RFP process. There would be required background checks on the process. There would be no subleasing of the land, no on-site sales, and site responsibility, certain things for whoever the vendor would be. And of course, we have the bond covenants and grants that would have to be adhered to as well. So with that presentation, I leave you to really the last question. With the information that we've presented, we're here to answer any questions or anything I could do or staff can help with. But we're seeking direction from the town council, and the question that you see before you is, does town council support, as requested by staff and the Ag Board, does town council support placing funding into the fiscal year 2023 capital improvement program? And for those that don't know, that begins on October 1st of 2022, and preparing for the request for proposal for farming on the expansion parcel. And I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor, for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? What?
The question is, we're going to clear the land, but then we're giving the land for the farming, or is it going to be rental?
It's not.
I'm just curious.
No, it's a great question. So we will not be leasing the land.
That's the word, leasing,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
we cannot lease the land. Otherwise, the land becomes taxable value. So in essence, we'll be actually paying the operator on that property to do the item that they do, much like we do with our grazing users agreement on Robbins. And that's a property appraisers and a legal taxing issue. And we work through that through the plan, through the RFP and whoever was the selected vendor by council.
And how long would that be for?
That-
Perpetuity? I mean, it would be for...
I would be bringing back for all of you and input. We haven't crafted that. We really don't start the process of getting into it. We've started looking at all the technical parts of it, but as far as length and terms and et cetera, we don't begin that until I get direction.
But we have to put the $250,000 into the CIP for next year.
I can find a way to allocate those funds for your consideration and improvement for 2023, which begins after October 1st, and your CIP, which we'll be bringing forward to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lomack, I have a quick question.
Turn your mic on.
Should be on. Is it on now? Okay.
It's on now.
I thought red meant off. Green go. There's 21 acres of the last parcel there. You're talking about 250,000 for clearing it. Was that just for the clearing the 10 acres for farming, or is that clearing all 21 acres?
No, it was anticipated that if you're looking at an aerial, but you're not looking at it from ground level. So that's when there was a lot of other activity cleared in that since many years ago. So there's other materials on there that make the, it's actually very high elevated. It's actually a little bit of a high elevation, and it's got some materials in it that don't make the soil eligible to be able to be farmed. So we would have to be removing all that and bringing it down to ground level so it would be capable of having it groomed. So we'd expect that, as you know, soil is the premier area, and soil, whoever would be farming would be bringing in or cultivating their own soil for their own grow. But we would get it ready for that stage.
Just the 10 acres,
Just the
not
10
21.
acres,
Okay.
correct,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other question? I think everybody should know. I mean, just with the fact that, we went forward with the farm park, and we are always talking about our agricultural roots, that assisting the farmers is something that we have always done and should continue to do. I was at Batten's yesterday, and they have some local farmers that are in there growing. What's Batten's? I meant Miranda, sorry. I'm back a few years. That they sell similarly to what Mrs. McKenzie does to local restaurants and grocery stores and so forth. So, these operations are going on continuously, including our community gardens. And I might mention that the farm park is going to have a farmer's market and community gardens as well. So, we've always, in our future plans, have always kept in mind that we wanted to continue as much as possible our agricultural roots. So I will propose that we go ahead and prepare that land and get that RFP out as soon as possible so that we can put this in motion.
Mayor, we'll prepare to bring back the item in the capital improvement to you for all your approval.
That would be at the next meeting, because that's, okay. Is there anybody that disagrees with that? Do I have a 5 thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll meet with Mr. Lamack and Mr. Holstein to get additional information on it, to find out more, because I was not able to go to the agricultural board meeting, and I want to make sure I get all the details. I haven't had a chance to review the minutes or see those, so I do want to get a little bit more details on it as we go forward as to your feelings on how we do it. But so far, it does sound decent. I'm just concerned, want to make it fair to everybody who has an opportunity to do that.
yeah, well, that's the
Mrs.
purpose of the
McKenzie and them,
RFP
yeah.
process.
Yeah, and Mayor, and I would correct it, it'll be September 7th when we come back.
okay, I'm sorry, I
September
meant-
7th, and I just wanted, a lot of we'll move forward with this. Remember, access is going to be critical to that, so clearing the land has to be also tied to getting permission and access. Otherwise, we cannot get to this piece today. We can't get to this piece until Farm Park is actually created. 18 months is a long way, so it's really critical for us to try to work with the owner of the land at Blackhawk Creek. Blackstone, I'm sorry, to be able to get access through there, or whatever we put in, we'll have to sit until we can get access. That's a critical component of this, and we're
Well,
having,
you already spoke to them, didn't you?
we're having active dialogue with it. We were hoping to buy it, so we transitioned to the next stage, and so we haven't finalized that, but we're having active dialogue.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
and I'll, council member, whenever you'd like to sit down, I'll provide you with more detail.
Because this has been something that I know
has meant a lot to you, and the way we developed this parcel as a farm parcel for both education purposes as well as, to preserve the land, is which we all tried to do for many years with this parcel as well as others. Each one had a specific purpose, if you will, and this one primarily is the farm. So I want to make sure it didn't run afoul with the way our vision was to develop that land into an education component, and what we do to provide is not just to kind of find another place to put another farmer, but actually to make sure it includes the education elements that we had in mind, and goes forward with the grant requirements.
Mr. Lemack wants to
Yeah,
respond.
that's why I said there was always been a little bit of confusion. So
With
this,
the two parcels.
the two parcels. The farm park parcel has different grant requirements. That this expansion piece for the 10 acres does not have to meet those Community Trust Broward County grant requirements. What it had to meet was it was purchased with our open space bond, which is why I tell you that as long as we're not charging for it and don't get taxed, the bond attorneys have told us that piece is fine. The only future area for that was potentially for stormwater retention in the future, but it has no bearing on our plans and your approvals and your design development phases of Governor Leroy Collins Farm Park. It was never included in that for any educational components or any development or any of the management plans. So I want to make sure we know that it's not part of two completely separate pieces.
And it's very possible, once we have the crew in place that's going to start the programming for the farm park, that they would want to include the farmers from that parcel in any educational project that they do, because I know that they're thinking about doing things about canning and pruning and giving lessons to the public about how to preserve different foods. So that's
And
that's
it's
a
quite
very-
possible, Mayor, that, like I said, there could be in the future years,
Right.
there could be another 10 acres available, but we're just not at that stage to be able to identify that yet. But if we did do that, that's the part that said if we were going to farm on that part, that would have to have the educational components to it, but not necessarily expansion. So, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so next comes up 20, 21, 22, 26, 30, 31, and 32. What I'd like to do is, I just decided whether I want the public to speak now or actually, I think that some of the things that you're going to present might be appropriate at this time, and then we can have the public speak after you do your presentation.
Excellent.
Mr.
Thank you so
Backman,
much,
yeah,
Mayor.
thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Good to see everyone. Scott Backman on behalf of the applicant. I have a PowerPoint if someone can pull that up, please? I'm sorry? Yes, that should be it, yeah. Are you going to be clicking or can I use that? Yeah. Great.
The official clicker?
The white ones forward? Yeah. Perfect. Sorry. Just some technical issues. Excellent. Thank you. So I think we all know the property that we're here to talk about. Very much appreciate Mr. Lemack's presentation ahead of time. He referenced the parcel for just a couple of moments at the very beginning of this. We were talking about the Marsh property. I think all of you sitting up there are familiar with it in one way or another. Some of you probably go back the almost 2 decades that this property has been in some degree of development play within the town. As you'll see as I get into the presentation a little bit more, but it's about a 30-acre property, 25 of which on the hard corner, so the vast majority of the property that you see there, all of which budding orange and the vast majority of budding flamingo, has an underlying commercial land use designation. There is an agricultural zoning, as we've all talked about. You'll see some photos. The property is currently being farmed in some respects, and obviously that's been addressed by Mr. Lemack. I'll address it a little bit, and I'm sure you'll hear from several members of the public as well. As I'm sure many of you are aware, I think there have been no less than 4 or 5 large-scale commercial development proposals that have been submitted on this property. When I say large-scale, it's a very large piece of property, hundreds of thousands of square feet, big box, grocers, fast food, gas stations, et cetera. It's been very much in play. It's a great parcel. Directly across the street is commercial. Obviously, across the street to the south in another city is large-scale commercial, and that's been the desire for this property for a very long time. To the town's credit, there's an immediately adjacent community. Oops, I went the wrong way. The immediately adjacent community to our east, known as Laurel Oaks, has had very significant concern with the idea of this property being developed as commercial. They've shown up in force at a number of those meetings. I was at some of them back in the early and mid 2000s when that was happening, and those projects were either denied or withdrawn or never even submitted, and again, to the town's credit, holding out for something a little bit different. Fast forward to what brings us here today. My client, 13th Floor Homes, they've been developing in South Florida since about 2008, 2009. They've been building single-family homes and quality single-family homes for pretty much the extent of that time. And yeah, I will tell you, and they're a regional builder and not a national or publicly traded builder, but they've employed and developed what I would call what was somewhat unique outreach strategy at a time when it wasn't necessarily being utilized within the development industry. Obviously today, advent of social media and everything else, in the town of Davie in particular, obviously you have public participation requirements. As I'm sure you know, not every city does have that requirement, so obviously credit to the town in that respect as well. But my client, long before they ever submitted development applications to the town, long before we even started discussions with town administration or town staff, they started dialogue with the Laurel Oaks community. That really doesn't happen a lot of the time, and they reached out, they went to the pizza place across the street a couple of different times and said, listen, we're contemplating moving forward on this property. We have an opportunity to do so, but the property's got a storied history, and we really don't want to spend a lot of time, a lot of money, waste a lot of people's time to take this through a process if everyone in Laurel Oaks is going to show up and object. What my client was proposing was nice, high-end, single-family homes, good buffering, things of that nature, and in working with Laurel Oaks was able to really craft a site plan, which you'll see in just a few moments as well. That's really what led us here. I think sometime during COVID, if I'm not mistaken, we may have been the first in-person meeting that took place. There were 5 of us in your town council chambers, Mr. Lemack, Mr. Holste, myself, and 2 members of my client team, and we all spread out and we sat and we just talked about the idea of moving something along these lines forward. And that's kind of what was the genesis of ultimately what leads us here today. So I just talked through the background, the history of this property. What you see before you, and again, and I'm sure you're going to hear from members of the public, you just heard from Mr. Lemack, absolutely the property has an underlying agricultural designation, is currently being farmed. From the moment we received our first phone call, I think Mr. Holste reached out to me and said, hey, there's some rumblings about some concerns associated with the property that's currently being farmed. There is a month-to-month lease essentially that's out there in place. One of the attorneys for the property owners is here today in the event there are additional questions as it relates to any of that. We engaged immediately, working with town staff through some of the council members, trying to work in solution-oriented mode. How can we address and provide additional time? It was explained to us that there were some plantings and harvesting crops and making sure that there wasn't going to be a situation where the individuals that are farming the property were immediately going to be kicked off the property. We made that commitment as best as we could. Obviously, we're a contract purchaser, not the property owner, but we worked with the property owner in order to allow us, my client, 13th Floor Homes, to kind of take control of that discussion. And I think it's proved somewhat fruitful in terms of creating less controversy, allowing us to figure out a solution that would provide for additional time. So as we work our way through that process, we end up working with the farmers. We have our clients had several discussions. Obviously, our planning and zoning board meeting, there were some discussions that took place at that time, kind of led us over the course of the last week. It's my understanding that my clients had some discussions with, I believe, Mrs. McKenzie, maybe some others out on the property. We are actually, and I believe there have been some requests that have been made, We, through the end of October, which is about a 90-day period of time prior to our intention of commencing construction, development, moving earth on the property, are providing that additional time. In addition, we're providing, so from effectively today forward, rent-free. And so, we're trying to find compromises. Obviously, there are underlying property rights that exist on the property, and so at the same time, we're trying to figure out how we can move forward with the least amount of destruction, or as I mentioned earlier, controversy with regard to what's happening on the property today. So that leads us to the development applications. The mayor read off several that are on the agenda. We have a land use request, a zoning request, a flex request, a plat, a site plan, and a couple of variances in order to allow the property to move forward with the proposed development. The first, as we talked about earlier, and you can see the commercial land use designation here, about 25 acres to 5 acres with the commercial, and then an R1, 1 unit to the acre on the northern 5 acres of the property. What we're proposing to do here, and this was quite a bit of discussion and back and forth with town staff as well. At one point, we were proposing a standard town land use designation. I think that would have allowed, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Quigley, up to 5 units to the acre. And so we tried to get a little creative. The town and the county, as you may be aware, have what's called an irregular residential zoning designation, which allows us to specify and not go beyond exactly what we are proposing to build. 2.3 units to the acre, as you'll see on our site plan. It's a total of 65 single-family lots. And so that's the land use application that's before you this evening. The zoning application, as I mentioned earlier, is an existing agricultural designation. We are proposing to go to the R5 zoning designation. That will allow, with the exception of the 2 variances I'll talk about in a moment, the development of this site in accordance with an existing underlying zoning. It does not, just because it's R5, would allow up to 5 units to the acre. That's the way your R5 works. But because of the underlying land use, we are restricted to 2.3 and can't do any more than that without coming back and going through this process again. So here's our site plan. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, this has been developed in conjunction through multiple discussions with the adjacent Laurel Oaks community, which is why you see the lakes on the north and the east sides. It has been designed in such a way so that the access is only off of Flamingo. At one point very early on in the design process and even in discussions with some of the departments at the town, we did have access off of Orange. Made sense, fire, secondary access, things of that nature. However, that was a very strong preference from Laurel Oaks to find an alternate solution. We were able to do so. You do see what's in dark green on the bottom of the screen there between lots 22 and 23. It's emergency, there'll be a Knox box, emergency ingress and egress so that fire and EMS can get to the property. It is not paved, it is stabilized, it'll look like grass to everybody else. Some other components of the site plan you can see in particular on the east, the west, and the south. The equestrian trails. There have been several discussions throughout this process to ensure that we are providing equestrian facilities out here. Obviously, you've got the town equestrian master plan, and certainly the trail that runs down the median between Orange and Griffin, but in very close proximity to this property, just to the north on Flamingo, you've got Robbins Park that's a little bit to the east of us. There are opportunities to connect in and really create that full connection. And so you see the equestrian trails, although not necessarily fully required on each of the 3 sides of the property here. I think that pretty much covers the site plan. So I want to touch very briefly on the 2 variances that we're requesting, just so that there's an explanation and everyone can understand. I've kind of characterized both of these variances that you're going to see as what I would call nuances of your code. I think we very much meet the intent. I think the manner in which the site plan is designed creates a little bit of a unique situation with the language in your code. So there are 12 lots here that are effectively corner lots, or in some cases 64 and 65 lots that are surrounded on 3 sides by roadway. The way the R5 designation in the code works is if you effectively have frontage on a street, you have to have a front setback, which is 25 feet. I'll use lots 1 or lots 3 up in the northwest corner as an example. One is at our main entrance. Obviously, that's a side on the southern part of lot 3. The other is a T turnaround for fire on the north side of lot 1. Yet we're still effectively required by code to have a 25-foot setback. And so that applies the same to the other 10 lots that you see there. And so effectively, what we're asking for is a variance to provide what the code would otherwise require as a side setback for each of these lots and still provide the code required 25-foot front yard setback for all of these lots. The other is similar but different. We've got 5 different clusters of 3 lots that are on effectively curves in the community. There is in the R5 zoning designation a 75-foot front width that you need to meet for the lot. These lots that you see here don't meet that because they are on the corners, but what's interesting is each of these lots are actually the largest lots in the community. Generally the intent, keeps moving ahead. Generally, the intent of what you see, you have a minimum 75 foot and a minimum, I think it's 105 foot maybe deep. And so you get a minimum 7,500 square foot lot, and that's typically the intent of the way the code works, which is why you have that minimum front width. In these situations, obviously, we're a little bit smaller than that in some cases. You can see the smallest of which is 48.3 feet. However, as I said earlier, each of these are substantially larger than any of the other standard size lots in and around the community. So those are the 2 variances that we're requesting. I think that effectively sums up the majority of our applications. I did want to share some graphic renderings that we've had prepared and some elevations. This is the main entrance off of Flamingo into the community. You can see the pedestrian amenities that are provided. You can also see the equestrian trail that's provided along Flamingo Road here, as well as the main entry into the community. These homes, they're all very large homes. Obviously, they're on smaller lots, which is not necessarily typical of the character of a lot of Western Davie, but the homes themselves actually are. They're very reminiscent of what you would see in a lot of the larger estate communities in and around the western part of Davie. So we've got 4 different models. We've got multiple different floor plans as well as exterior options that are available, and so there won't be any kind of community consistency issue with homes looking identical to one another adjacent to each other. And all of these homes are highly amenitized. As I said, effectively these homes are the same level and quality that the town would otherwise look for in some of the larger lot size communities around the town. So we do have a plat. Obviously, as you all are aware, the plat is basically just creating the lot, the block, the easements, the roadways, things of that nature. So we are requesting approval of that. And then lastly, and I did touch on this a little bit earlier, but we've spent a very, very significant amount of time with the entire community. It's my understanding that the town council has received a number of letters of support, a lot of which came from the Laurel Oaks community. I do believe that there are some board members here that are going to speak in support of the application as well. And then obviously we complied with all of the town's public participation requirements. I believe that's it. We have a whole team of people here on our side that are happy to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you very much for the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much. I think what I'd like to do now is open the public hearing for the public to come and speak. After which we know that everybody will be available, and we'll take each piece of this. I think there's seven of them, items, one by one for further discussion if there are any questions, and also a vote, okay? So those individuals, I know you were very anxious to speak, so we'll call on you first. And those people that want to speak, just be prepared to come up, state your name and address. If you haven't filled out a speaker's form, make sure that you do that. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, council members. My name is Santiago Arroyo, co-owner of Three Amigos in Davie, 10900 Southwest 48th Street. So I just heard from the developers that they reached out to farmers and stuff like that, and that's cool. That's great that they've decided to rent-free until November, I believe they said. I don't think any of that was communicated. Any communication we tried to have with them was actually just stonewalled, and we haven't heard from them since a month ago. So it is very nice that they're offering that. I would like to see that, and Ms. Mack would like to see that on paper, legally bound, so that she is sure that she can be there at least until then. We're also asking 13th floor homes and investments to please use their resources to help us move the soil, because that takes 10 years. So you're going to lose 10 years of farming. You can be farming 15% of Davie's total produce needs in that land right now, if we follow the right model. And it's going to take another 10 years for us to get to that space again if we don't have that soil that they've been building for the last 10 years. I know that the rezoning board voted against this motion to rezone. It's on a 6-1 vote, and they cited specifically that it will be a burden on the community, the town of Davie, and the taxpayers, because they need to accommodate the right fire departments, waters, anything that has to do with infrastructure is going to fall not on the developer but on the city as well as the taxpayers. So that was a concern that they had brought up at the last meeting. Again, we are happy about their willingness to talk to Ms. McKenzie, so we would love to see that come to fruition. And then from hearing about the proposals, thank you, Mr. Lemack, for the proposals, it sounded like the 10 acres would be a really great place for us, for Ms. McKenzie to set up her farm and be able to produce her food. How is the town of Davie, what are they doing to protect future farmers who lose land? Because we're saving this farmer, we're trying to save this farmer, but what about future farmers, like for the future of Davie? A community garden is not enough to feed a whole community. It's great teaching, it's a great tool to invite people into agriculture, but it is not a way to feed a whole community unless you have a farm community garden, which would be fantastic. And then what we believe strongly is that the answer is to create agricultural land trusts and land loss mitigation programs, which currently exist in the United States. There are models that we can follow very easily that will actually alleviate taxpayer burdens and be a great way to keep Davie deeply rooted into the agriculture that they have throughout their history. So there are ways that we can work together, and I would love to sit with all the council anytime to be able to discuss those and create those programs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mayor,
yes.
if I may, sorry, slow.
What?
If I may address
okay.
the second portion of, I forgot your name, of what the speaker said. So everyone here is coming up to speak for or against this item. I just want to remind everyone to speak about the merits of the case and what's being heard in front of you. The questioning about what the town is doing for farming, etc. I'm not saying it's not important, but we are here for the items in front of us, and we need to just focus on the items in front of us. So if you have any comments like that, I ask you guys to hold on to that and just discuss the items in front of you at the town council meeting tonight. There are 7. They're all in the. There are 7 items. They're all in the agenda.
And I think we also discussed that some of the points that you bring up, we have a great vehicle. We have our ag board. Mr. Busey used to be on it, and I'm sorry that you're no longer there because you would have been very helpful. But they have the ability to study things, make recommendations to council. So I would think that that would be a great way for you to look at the ideas that you just had about what's going to be done to help save the lands for the future, and this idea of an ag land trust and mitigation. You know, we already have a land trust in Davie, which is a private 501c3 organization. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to seek some help for those things that you're asking for.
That's what we've been asking for, so if you can lead me in the right direction.
Okay, right. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is George Artigas. I live in Laurel Oaks. I'm a member of the board. And we're not opposing to the project going forward with the building of the homes. I feel that they're compatible with the existing Laurel Oaks, and I think it'll be a good use for the property. Also, I have a letter here from a prior board member. He was unable to attend, and his name is Tariq Malik, and he lives at 11826 Southwest 43rd Street in Laurel Oaks. He's a past member of the board of the Homeowners Association, and he was on the board when the initiation of the 13-floor homes was brought to discuss with the board. Okay, and he's not, he doesn't disagree with the plan. He's in agreement. He supports their plan when it was originally presented, and continues to support the plan with the new development today. And he's sorry for not being able to be here today. And you guys need my address? My address is 11890 Green Oak Drive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you fill in a sign-in sheet?
I did, yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Martin West. I'm also living in Laurel Oaks, and I'm part of the board as well. We have been presented this opportunity by 13th Floor Homes for about a year now. They actually did come to us, and they wanted to address with us exactly what we wanted to see, the vision of what we wanted for this particular land, because in the past we have been presented with commercial opportunities, and we have come out in force to say that is not what we wanted. We wanted a low-density housing development, and we wanted that not to come out onto Orange Drive because we were concerned about the impact on Orange Drive. What they came forward with after consideration was the proposal that you see this evening, about 65 homes. We, as a community, do support that. You may not find a lot of us here this evening, but that doesn't preclude the fact that we don't support this. I think if it was something that we didn't support as in the past, you would see a lot of people out here. So this is something that we want to have resolution to. The community needs to have something with this particular land. It is undeveloped, and I know it is now being used for the farmers, which is a wonderful thing. But I think you guys have a plan for that. I think you have a structured plan for the farmers with sanitation, structure, so that they can build their vision as well. We need our vision to be built. And that is something for this particular land. We need to be able to safeguard the west side of our property. In addition to that, you know, I know you guys are going to look at all the stats and the numbers and how this impacts Davie. And I know it's not going to be just a number of people that's going to be showing up. But if it was the number of people showing up, in this room tonight, there would be another 65 people. And you may not know who they are, and I don't know who they are, and you may not see them here. But these are going to be the homeowners who buy this property, who call this home. And the community of Davie will come to know who they are because they'll be going to the grocery store and they'll be spending money there. They'll be going to the restaurants and the movie theaters and the ballparks and the football games. And you'll be seeing them running down the road in the evenings with their evening run. And they'll be part of this community. And if they had the opportunity, without realizing that they'll be buying into this community, but they had the opportunity to stand here this evening, you'd see 65 of them in this room this evening. So I know my time is running out, but I just want to say from my perspective, thank you so much, Mayor, Commissioners. Really appreciate it and look forward to your vote on this property. Thank you so much.
If you want to just stand in the middle there and so that you're in queue, the gentleman, come on. Yeah, you're good. Come on. But I'm just saying to anybody else that wants to speak, just kind of stand in line and.
All right, my name is Ailey Verone. I've been a realtor for 27 years. I've sold many of their houses, 13th floor in the past. They build a beautiful house. I've never had a past client complain about anything with them. There's a tremendous demand right now for new construction in Davie. There is very little to choose from. I think they'd be a perfect addition to the Davie community. Their houses are fantastic. I live in Davie. I have a vested interest in Davie. Went to Pembroke Lakes Elementary, Cooper City High School. I love Davie, and I would love having their houses here. So.
Good evening. My name is Maggie Romano. I live at 11891 Green Oak Drive. I've lived there for 35 years with my husband Jacob. We are, most of us that I've spoken to, we didn't have early notice of this coming on, so there's not too many of us here. But we are in agreement. We have been present for earlier developments that were commercial, and we were in an approval of that. But we are in approval of this new residential low density for this property. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marcos Ritter. I live on 4911 Southwest 111th Terrace. I moved to Davie 13 years ago, and I had the best of luck. My neighbor across the street was this lady named Rosie Anderson. Rosie, those of you that know Rosie, she's amazing. One of the most beautiful people I ever met in my life. After Carol, her husband, passed away, I had the opportunity to go to her every morning, maybe not every morning, at least 4 times a week, and we would have coffee together. And Rosie would speak to me about Davie and how beautiful Davie was and how she loved the council and how they worked. And she would, when she was a fighter, she would come out and, excuse my language, bitch, and you know she was a fighter. Okay. She told me something that I'll never forget. One was that we can disagree without being disagreeable. And the other thing she told me was, she goes, you city folks, you come out here to Davie and you change the one thing that you loved about it. I'm not opposed to development. It needs to happen. It's just the way nature happens. Okay? But this high density program, this 65 homes to that property, I think is ridiculous. You know, I think there's room to develop homes. Homes can be 1.5 acre lots, you know, and there's a marriage that both parties can find peace. I would ask the developer, do they live in Davie? Do they participate? The story of the 65 people are going to come out and play in our yards and come to our games and whatnot. Do they share the values of the Davie that once was? And then it still has to be. You know, I appreciate what the mayor said that are the roots of Davie in agriculture. You know, this is important. This is what we came and bought. Those of us that came here 13 years ago, like myself, and those that came 25 years before me. We bought that town. We're not called the city of Davie. We're called the town of Davie. You know, that's what I wanted to keep. You know, I appreciate your time. Please consider that.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Rick, staff. John Hinden. Feel like I'm back at my old stomping grounds here. Gosh, Bamford, I've been to like 1,000 games here coaching and sitting on the sidelines for my kids. Too many town council and planning and zoning meetings to recall. I'm here for a very important voice. That's the people that own this property right now, the Morsch family. That's my client. They bought this property in the 1960s. That's over 50 years ago. They have been great citizens of the town of Davie. They donated a bunch of acreage for a park. Marion Morsch, her husband has since passed away, is 98 years old right now. And her son and her daughter, who's an OBGYN, want nothing more than to see this property sold before she dies. She's 98. Now, all of us believe in that flag right over there on the left, right? That American flag. We're American citizens. Thank God we don't live in Cuba or Russia where somebody can tell us, you can't sell your land. You have to continue to lease it to whoever's on there forever because you don't have any rights. No, every one of us has the right to go buy some property for our family and to hold it for 10, 20, 50 years, whatever it may be, and then to sell it. That's called the Constitution. That's the rights of American citizens. So we got to remember that. The Mackenzies have been there for about 10 years. My clients have been great landlords. Look, farming is a tough business, and we should all respect it and support it. At times there were hurricanes or weather events, and the crop didn't come in, and so they didn't have to pay rent. My clients were the best landlords you could have. They've always known this property is going to be developed. Stiles was here in the early 2000s, mid-2000s. It was on the cusp of approval for commercial and multifamily apartments, townhomes. That's what this property is land used for. That's the legal right to develop that property that way. Okay, Stiles pulled back. The economy crashed. Since then, there's been a Wawa, a Sprouts. You heard the Laurel Oaks people speak. They don't want that there. But this property is land use planned for that kind of a use. Along comes 13th floor homes, the perfect solution. They want to build homes here. Okay, so we've gone to the Mackenzies. I've met with them at the farm. Look, they're month-to-month tenants. Our client has the legal right to give them a 15-day notice and say your tenancy's terminated. That's Florida law. There's really no defense to that. Instead, they said, you need 3 months to grow your crops and harvest them. We're going to give it to you. And that commitment has stayed in place. So remember, there is an American family that bought this property 55 years ago. And just like every one of us, they have the right to sell that property. They're American citizens. Thank you. God bless.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, and attendees. My name is Leah Pearl, resident here in Davie, and a mother to my 4-year-old. Thank you. I stand here today for everyone to reconsider and really think about what we're trying to teach our next generation. I'm an educator, and I emphasize sustainability. How are they improvising sustainability? How are we teaching our future generations, especially the town of Davie, the ones that really stand out in Broward County about farming practices, regenerative soil, food forests, and most importantly, we have a food scarcity in the United States, but more importantly here in South Florida. We need to preserve this land. And how are we going to teach our children this if we keep selling it off? I understand we all need to make a living, but we need to figure out how to do this in harmony. I propose that we start looking into agricultural land trusts, just as Santiago spoke. And the gentleman that just spoke before, I'm certain that you would like to send your child to a school that teaches about sustainability developmental goals that the United Nations has been emphasizing. We are still going through the COVID pandemic. And as we have all learned, health is wealth. Our food is health. If we don't take care of our land and we rely on manufactured foods, you may not see it right now, but in the future, our health will decline. So please keep in consideration for our children and our future generations to preserve our lands here in Davie. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I represent a group that maybe everybody hasn't really considered in all this, but the lady that was just speaking and said that food is health and health is our life, of course. I couldn't agree more. I take care of elderly people in a small assisted living home in Pembroke Pines right now, and I've been looking for an opportunity to do these kinds of things, and we have a 501c3 called Go Agri-Hood. Go Agri like agriculture, hood like neighborhood. So this is about farming that grandma can still do. If she's 92, if she's in a wheelchair, if she's got a walker, if whatever. Okay, now we're talking about a marriage between high tech, which her grandchildren would love because, you know, they can program something to report to their phone when the pH drops a certain amount and stuff like that. So I think we need to generate a certain amount of education of the public around that. And I was hoping and dreaming of the fact that maybe we could keep a couple acres near the corner and everything to make like an adult daycare center where they could go there and learn about farming the new way and everything, right, without pesticides and all that, and where they could just get outside and breathe and see the sunlight and really reconnect with their memories and with nature and with their grandchildren and all that, and somebody else's grandchildren maybe. And this is all about, and we benefit not only the elderly, but it's also for people in recovery. There's a whole lot more of them after the pandemic, right? After the isolation and being inside without the sunlight for so long and all the rest of that, right? And then not really having healthy food because everybody gets everything brought in and, you know, all that stuff now. So I think we're losing touch with slow food, with, you know, things that really matter, with family, with all this agrarian community that we grew up with here, that we have all the grandparents and grandchildren, everybody's out there on the farm working together and everything. Sure, I get that. And then now it's going away because there's development. I get that too. I'm also a real estate appraiser of 40 years in Southeast Florida. I can tell you one thing, and I've done a lot of research on this, and it's known the world over among land property valuation specialists like me, is that there's one kind of real estate that never goes down in value. And what is that? Agricultural land. Because sooner or later, there's going to be a developer, right? Okay? So people are not going to lose value, and the town of Davie is not going to lose value in the various parcels that are around here. But I think we need to do more than replace 27 acres with 10. And we need to look at other uses that also benefit the community and groups that need some help now. So we're at the intersection and the crossroads of healthcare, and that's mental health and physical health, right? Okay? And special needs. There's so many autistic people today, right? And so they need something to do that they can really do and get their minds around and everything, and it's not so stressful and not inside under artificial light. So this is perfect, and that's what Go Agri-Hood's about. And I would like you consider certain maybe small organizations like that that benefit the community as well to do some of this and to identify other parcels that may not be 27 acres, but there could be 10 here and 5 here and everything. There could be a room for a place like I would like to see and like I would like to participate in building.
Did you
Thank
give
you
your address? Your name and address?
Sure. My name is Doreen Campbell, Campbell like the soup, and Doreen, D-O-R-E-E-N. Okay, and my address, I actually live at 2230 Southwest 139th Avenue, which is just maybe a mile and a half west-northwest maybe of this property we're talking about. Yeah.
Thank you.
In Davie. Absolutely. Yeah. I was with you guys and with the whole thing when we were shooting down the downtown Davie thing that would have been a disaster for the traffic through our neighborhood. And guess what? It doesn't seem like that was necessary. It seems like the need has been filled someplace else, right, for the commercial stuff. So I really think that it's time for some community stuff. Thank you.
Next, please. Just give your name and address, please.
My name is Glenn Greenberg. I live at 8810 Lake Park Circle North, Davie, Florida, in Forest Ridge. So, I didn't come here to speak originally, but my daughter said to come to save the farmland. And I can see that you guys are doing a great job at saving the farmland. But 13th floor, not a good match. They bought property. They developed property from us in Delray Beach. I happen to own a condo in Huntington Lakes area, and they will not be the one developing. They will sell it off to someone else to do it. It will become a nightmare, and I say, buyer beware. That's all I could say. I'm a governor also in the village of Oreo. Thank you.
Did he give his address? Did he fill out a form? And what his address is on it? Okay. Just keep coming. We don't need to. I feel like let's make a deal. Come on.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My family of long life residents of the town of Davie. I'm expressing my support for the reserve at Davie being proposed on Flamingo Road and Orange Drive. My family supports this new proposed residential project. I think the plan presented fits well in the surrounding communities and much better use than commercial development. I've grown up in Davie. My parents live in Forest Ridge, so I've been here. I want another family to be able to grow up and come to town of Davie and come to Bamford and participate in those sports. So I thank you guys for your attention tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you give your name and address? Did you give your name and address?
Jaron Leggett and my family, we're still in the same house, 34 years, 3040 Rosebud Court in Davie. So one of the first residents in Forest Ridge. So
Okay,
thank you.
I'm the one who encouraged his mother to buy the house. Remember that day?
Yes.
All the 4 boys were, no, we only had 2
Okay.
boys running around in the
We're
car.
running, we need to keep going. Okay. Sir?
Honorable Mayor, respected commissioners, and fellow residents of Davie. My name is Joseph Lucas. I live in Laurel Oaks East community. My address is 11938 Southwest 43rd Street or Econ Drive. My house sits directly opposite of the farm, which is east of Southwest 121st Terrace. By profession, I am a social worker, but I come from a family of farmers, so I know a lot about farming. Now, I want to say something about the farm next to my house. First of all, it does not look like a farm. It looks like a piece of land with a lot of vegetations, trees, trash, and ugly-looking shacks and sheds. These farmers are organic farmers, but they use a lot of horse manure, which produces a lot of foul smell, and therefore I cannot enjoy fresh air by standing on my property. They do not keep up the farm properly. It will look like a place as if nobody takes care of it. A lot of weeds, bushes, overgrown trees, trashes on the farm. Since this farm is not well kept and maintained, it must be closed down. I think Broward community can have some nice homes built on this farm. And so I want the farm to be sold to builder 13th floor. I hope mayor and commissioners will give final approval for this new project, a new community to be built. But I have one suggestion and a humble request. Since these farmers are making a living out of this farm, Broward County should give them some city-owned land for their farming with the supervision of trained professional people from the farming community. Thank you for listening to me.
Keep coming.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Stephanie Mogul. My family resides at 2753 West Stonebrook Circle in Davie for over 20 years. I'm here to express my family's support of the plan being presented by 13th Floor to you all this evening. It's my understanding that it is a low-density luxury housing community, which will have minimal impact on traffic and the surrounding areas. I know the current future use is commercial, and I definitely do not want to see another commercial shopping plaza go up in our town. I think the homes that are being presented fit in great with the surrounding neighborhoods, including our own, which is right down the street from the property. I appreciate your time and consideration and hope you will approve the plan. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kim Weissmantel at 640 Northeast 101st Street, Miami Shores, Florida. I am not a Davie resident, but I have grown up, lived in Davie, and I work here. I am the education director at the Old Davie School Historical Museum. I think I've met a lot of you and gotten to show you around. I have dedicated my career to researching the history of Davie, and that it's an agricultural history. When South Florida boomed after World War II, the population of Fort Lauderdale was over 83,000. Davie was 2,000. It was 2,000, under 2,000 until 1960. By 1980, Davie had boomed to over 20,000. Today we have over 105,000 people here. And with this rapid growth, Davie has done a remarkable job preserving the green space and keeping agricultural a priority in the town. But the farm options presented earlier are with good intentions, but continue to face their own challenges with development, like trying to get the right of way because there's already a development in the way to access our farmland there. The family that is selling the land, that's great. They bought the land 55 years ago because Davie was desirable then. And why do they want to sell? Because Davie is desirable now. And of course, they have a clear right to sell. But if the town wants to maintain a connection to the agricultural roots of Davie, it's going to need to be more creative moving forward, especially with the rezoning. I'm not here because I have answers, but it is hard to be a booming, desirable community and maintain that measured growth. But to give consideration to small areas of agricultural spaces that are already in active cultivation. Like the first member who spoke said, it takes 10 years to create that land to farm on. You can't move that. You can't bring that somewhere else. One day we might have the Davie Farm Park. It's an incredible idea. But to start from scratch there would take another 10 years to develop what is available, what could be available, what hardworking people have already put in place. While changing the zoning to low-medium density is a preferred option here, the community gardens that were discussed in the farm option, is that something going forward that could be incorporated into the land use changes to create a sense of incorporation with the communities there? It keeps that historical foundation rather than separating it in a park way over there, like tucked away from the people of the community. Now would be a time to recognize the opportunities, whether or not this is the one. The town was organized by people taking an active role like we see here today, and I encourage the spirit. It's incredible to see this number of people showing up, stay active and pay attention in the community, but I especially urge the council to be a steward for number 3 on the town's strategic priorities, respecting and promoting diverse and sustainable community and neighborhood values with consideration of our historic roots. The town boasts that it's different. We're the western town in Broward. But soon, the story of these farms and the people who farm here, oh man, will only be something I'm showing in pictures in the museum. That's it. So we just want to try and keep that.
Excuse me, are you the author of the book on Davie?
I did write a book on Davie,
Right.
Images of America.
Thank you very
Davie.
much. It's a good book.
196 images of Davie.
Good evening. My name is Charles Levy. I reside in the town of Davie at 15020 Featherstone Way, Davie, Florida. I also have a family-owned business in Davie that we run basically across the street from where the development's going to go, right next to that Italian restaurant they were talking about earlier. And I don't think a commercial development there, which is what it's zoned for now, would be a good thing for that whole surrounding area. There's a lot of traffic on that intersection already. A residential community would be much better serving the community, aside from the fact that there's a shortage of nice new homes in the area, that we want nice young people moving into Davie so then they can stay here and just as long as everybody else. And that's it.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Mary Levy, and I live in 15020 Featherstone Way in Davie, Florida, 3331. I support 13th floor because same thing that was just said. We have a shortage of homes, and what 13th floor is projecting is beautiful homes. And I think that we should give other families the great ability of living in this great town. So I support the project. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. Come on.
Good evening. My name's Nicole, and I reside here in Davie at 422 Southwest 78th Drive, and I'm in agreement with 13th floor's application. I'm sure we would much rather residential homes than another commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep moving.
Hi, my name is Sinaida Araya. I live at 11895 Oakleaf Drive in Davie, and it is the neighborhood right next to where this development is going to be put in. When I initially heard about it, I was kind of excited because I thought, ooh, maybe I'll trade up, right? But the more I learned about it, the more concerned I got because it's not an equivalent neighborhood to what we have. The developer themselves talked about the setbacks and the easements, the concern about the front of the lots being smaller than what the standard is, and their desire to make them even smaller. I think we just have to decide, like, what's the vision for Davie? We moved down here, my husband and I then moved down here 10 years ago with our 4 kids. And we came from the Midwest, Indiana and Kansas and Pennsylvania, wide open spaces. And we looked at Hollywood, and we were there for 6 months and decided that wasn't our place. And we looked at Davie, and we were at home. Wide open spaces. So my perspective is unique. I have spent quite a bit of time at the farm over the last year and a half. I met you today. I have a conversation for you we'll have later. So my daughter was in a co-op that was a mix of low-tech and high-tech, learning how to operate drones to get licensed to be whatever they want in the future, and also learning about sustainable farming, which is something I know nothing about. I wasn't planning on speaking, letting my heart rate go down. That's okay. We have time. I think it's the most important is to decide, what do we want the town of Davie to look like? Does she have a right to sell the farm? Absolutely. Fundamentally, she does. Is this the right developer for our community? And I don't think that it is. The young man that came to my door this morning is the first representative that I've had address me from the development, and that's all fine. But he banged on the door as if it was an emergency, and I got out of bed, and I was in bed at that hour because I recently had surgery. So I came to the door quite groggy, to a young man saying that there were going to be farmers at this meeting, and I needed to go to represent my neighborhood, and there would be picket signs, and that it was zoned commercial, which is not true. So I would say, whoever you work for, they need to reassess, because I don't think that you did them a service today. And as a town, we need to decide, what do we want our town to look like? There are plenty of other developers. There are developments everywhere.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is John Arroyo. I'm a co-owner of Tree Amigos Growers over at 10900 Southwest 48th Street. Wanted to ask everyone, what is Davie teaching about, our future generations if there is no farmland to teach about? It seems that we're trading a 27-acre property of arable land for a 10-acre property of what seems to have contaminated soil based on, the explanation saying that it needs cleaning up. Is that what Davie residents deserve on their dinner plate, on their as their food sources? As food security decreases, we cannot afford to lose more of this land. This is a real problem we're all facing, and by losing 27 acres, that's about 16% of Davie's food production that is possible there. Currently, the Colossal Academy at Max Farm has taught children about farming and agriculture over the past few years. Places like Max Farm are more than just crops. They're places where people can learn to connect with food and build community. So that's your teaching place there. By the way, I walked the entire property with Mrs. McKenzie, who was kind enough to show me what the farm looks like. And I found it to be an abundance of food and wonderful people, to be honest. As a farmer, I don't think any apology is needed about these, quote, foul smells someone mentioned earlier. That is how farming is done, and I suggest that they learn more about how farming is, done in general. The need for farming education is clearly necessary, not just for children, but for adults in Davie as well. What will Davie's legacy be once farms are gone? I remember my family moved out to South Florida 1994. Going to Davie was going out to the country. It's a beautiful place. It's a place where you saw horses, you saw farms. I went to school right there on Sterling and University. When that property sold, it just became a completely different place that I don't think is really for, the best for everyone. So I suggest we keep Davie green and keep it a place for farmers. Thank you.
Good evening. I'll keep this short. My name is Frank DeQuino. I live at 3295 Southwest 117th Avenue, less than 3,500 feet from this proposed development. I am not in favor of any changes which allow more than one dwelling unit per acre, nor of reducing any setback requirements. West Davie offers a unique and rare relief from the ever-increasing congestion of South Florida. Allowing more than one DU per acre would significantly change the character, feel, and livability of our neighborhood. It could also set an undesirable precedent for others to do the same or worse. I have yet to hear any of my neighbors who think that allowing more congestion here would be good. Many of them are in that other room, which is standing room only right now, and about 90% of that room is in agreement with the folks who want to either preserve land or make sure that it doesn't get built up more than one DU per acre. Davie's land use planners had the foresight to protect this area from overdevelopment. Please have the foresight to deny this rezoning, don't allow anything more than one dwelling unit per acre, and preserve West Davie's unique heritage for years to come. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalia Herrera-Blitman, and I live at 850 Blue Ridge Way, Davie, Florida. I was raised in Davie. I agree with what one of the former residents said. When you come to Davie, it's a different place because, you know, I went to school in Miami, and I remember the smell of the air would always be thick with just smog because there was so much housing encroachment, and there were so many cars and just a lot of traffic. Coming to Davie, it's literally a breath of fresh air because I'm not surrounded by all of this, by all of this traffic and all these people. And it's not like people were saying before. It's not a city; it's a town. So I do not support 13th floor. I do not think that we need more housing developments here. I think that we do need more greenery. We do need more green space. I studied biology when I went to university, and ecologically speaking, it is better for the environment to have more green space, and especially with climate change, you have this issue of food security. And so having more farms means that we have more possibility for food security if we have more local produce, more organic produce. So yes, I support, I do not support 13th floor, and I support giving Mrs. Mack enough time at least to relocate, that this decision's been made so that she can, get all her supplies moved so that she is able to grow her produce, and so that we're able to continue to have these, these farms, this local produce, so that, we can sustain ourselves into the future. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that so many people want to speak, but we're hearing a lot of repetition. If you have something new to add, we would appreciate that. But if you're just repeating something that someone else has said, please make it short. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marcela Lucena, and I am a resident of Davie, 10400 Southwest 20th Street. My concern with rezoning this land from agricultural to R5 would mean that Davie would lose 27 acres of arable land. I'm grateful to hear that the town has options of how we can continue farming for food, but I do have a couple concerns. The main choice for replacing the farmers sounds like it might be a dumping ground with contaminated soil, and it could be a concern for our residents' health. It was mentioned the land may have been a storm water retention field. Will this farmland be subject to flooding and runoff of 75? The location cannot be used to sell produce directly to the public. How can we educate our community on growing organic food if they cannot be immersed in the entire process of a farm? Farmland is tax-exempted land. Even if the land was taxable, there would still be agricultural tax exemptions. It doesn't need to be a free hand-me-out. The farmers could pay the land tax to operate and steward the land. They aren't asking for free handouts. It appears to me it would be in the best interest to protect one of the last vegetable farms in Davie until we can have a solid plan to safely continue down the path of honoring Davie's agricultural roots. Please preserve Davie's farmland. There's also a potential buyer for the farm. And if we can change, then the future planned ahead to use this land for farming rather than residential. I also feel like the arguments about the pretty homes and the 65 people and the horse poop smell, they're very weak. I mean, this is the town we live in. We need to protect the farm for us, for our future, because there's a climate change going on. Did we not learn anything during COVID? That we need open spaces, that we need to be out, that we need healthy foods, that we need to support local and small businesses? Let's make this one not for the money for once, but for everybody that lives here. And so Davie could be an example for other communities, for other towns, for other cities. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dylan Sassy. I live at 4220 Southwest 82nd Way. I was born, raised in Davie, and I love it. I went to school at Silver Ridge, and they just taught us to really just be involved and like love what Davie has to offer. You know, we visited farms. They taught us about agriculture, and that was just something that made my childhood very like rich. And we had in my backyard, we had a big wide open space of pasture land, and there was trees, and there was like foxes and bobcats, and then they came one day and then they cut it all down for the Walmart, and that just, it really changed how I viewed Davie from then on, because when you walk down the street now, it's not the same. Like, it's hot, and there's cars, and it's like a rat race around here. And yeah, it seems like Miss McKenzie and her farm is more of a living treasure than a roadblock for something else. And I don't know. It sucks. You know?
Hello, Shireen Radigan, 746 Northeast 3rd Street. I am in Fort Lauderdale, actually. I am the educational curator at Colossal Academy. I am with youth. It's not just an imagined place. The kids do not know where food comes from. It's not something that we're projecting or thinking that youth don't know. They really do not know. And if we don't preserve a space for that, and we don't continue to make it a priority, it's going to be lost. And the part that's the scariest is Miss McKenzie is a little bit older than 25. And all of the knowledge that she has, the way to learn agriculture, and the thing that's kept us alive for over 10,000 years is sharing information and knowledge. Our kids don't know it. They don't. And I'm here to advocate for them in a safe place to be as they are re-entering from the pandemic. It's really scary. It's frightening. They're dealing with PTSD of the pandemic. And putting your hands in soil has really been their respite and their savior for. So it's an honor to be able to work with the town of Davie, because there's so many towns that are not open to having farms. There's so many towns that would never even consider. Pembroke Pines has lost a lot of farmland. So I just wanted to thank you for making agriculture a priority. The future's super bright. I see it in my students. And thank you.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Munavar. I live in 13701 Pine Meadow Court. Just wanted to express my opinion here, I suppose it is. I do definitely prefer having the land preserved as farmland. I prefer residential over commercial, though, for this. One of the issues that I have is the size of the lots, the size of the lots, the size of the houses, and the smaller lots. I definitely also agree that preserving the one dwelling unit per acre. Having these larger houses and these small crammed up spaces is drawing in people. I've seen it. Every house that is being thrown down now in Davie is always getting these same super huge houses. I don't see families moving in there that much. I didn't see a park in the plan for the house, so there doesn't seem to be a lot of room other than just for the houses. I have friends that have been trying to move to Davie now for 6 months, and they just can't find a house. They're just too high a price. So seeing more of these huge houses come in where, they're really unaffordable to these families is not really what I want to see in Davie, and not why I moved to Davie about 8 years ago. So thank you.
All right. Hi, my name is Brett McCullough. I'm an environmental realtor. The reason I came here is I got into...
Can I have your address, please?
Yes, 700 Uno Lago Drive in Palm Beach.
Palm Beach?
Yes.
Okay.
So I came here basically as a member of a community of the planet we live on. I speak more on behalf of nature in general, and I found out about this through other agricultural communities, folks that have gardens, community gardens. And one of the things that I've observed is how the communities do come together. I'm not here to speak for or against anything that's currently happening so much as I am in the vast importance of being aware of what nature does and what we need it for. And in the last, 60 years of human development, we've gone from about 61% green around us down to about 33%. We've lost the vast majority of the animal population. The wildlife has gone from mammal-based down to from 51% wildlife down to about 4%. These are just statistics that are, I think, very important for humans to be aware of. And so when we look at something like agriculture, and we look at the way land is developed, and we're looking at how land is moved, one of the most important things that they brought up was something regarding the soil, and that is something that should be vitally important for people to recognize. And one thing that if this is going to continue on, that soil is vitally important. The information you put in that soil creates the weather around you. We're a pocket of air and a vacuum of space. We are the weather. We create what we do. And so when you create that soil, that's information that you've given it. That's nutrients that you've created that then need to be sustained. If you toil land and you till it over and over again, you destroy the information that's put in there. So when you're creating things such as, tomatoes or kale or the vast variety of different foods that we eat and the nutrients that we're putting on our body, and that land is then being moved or redeveloped into where people can live, and you're not taking into consideration what that can be used for in the population of the folks that live in a community that are used to those type of things, aren't then brought aware of the how it affects the community. Then later on in the future, when we go, well, we have homes, but we don't have food, that can have a vast impact on not just the community that is known for that, but the many communities that are around it as people currently develop. So I find it very vitally important as humans continue to develop that they're highly aware of nature in general around them and how it works, because without nature, we don't exist. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucinda Williams. I'm from 47 Toledo Court. I live in Davie, and I'd like you to please save the farms. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I keep thinking I'm having the last speaker, and people keep coming in.
It's an important issue.
go? Hi. My name is Sammy Sassy. Am I good?
Your name and address, please.
Right. I'm Sammy Sassy. I live at 4220 Southwest 82nd Way. My brother spoke already, but I wanted to add on something that he said. He spoke on the Walmart that was behind my house. And he might not remember it because he was very young. But when I was 10 years old, I went door to door with my mom, and we advocated for voting for Mayor Judy Paul because I knew that she was going to fight to protect that agricultural land that was behind my house. There were horses that used to be grazing there. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. We have a Walmart there now. And I felt that change deeply when I was growing up. I felt the change, the shift from wide open spaces to just more businesses, more of the same suburb that every suburb looks like nowadays. And I want to see something different for the children. I've seen a couple of children come up here with their families to speak. And I wanted something different for them than what I saw in my childhood. I want them to grow up in a sustainable community. I want them to have that feel that we keep talking about, the feel of the town of Davie. And so I just wanted to say I support preserving the farmland and preserving the feel of our community, the sustainability of our community. Thank you.
I just want to respond to something that you said. We turned down the project where the Walmart is, and we were sued. We had to do it. We had no choice.
And I knew
So-
you fought for that. So I
so-
just wanted to remind you of that and how much that impacted me as a
I know, but and we weren't
Thank
happy
you for
either.
fighting- Thank you for
That's
fighting for
why
that,
you
and
got
please
that
keep fighting
big.
for our agricultural spaces.
That's why you got that big buffer in the back, because we fought for having at least something. If we had to give up the property for a Walmart, that there would be a good buffer with trees and so forth.
Thank you for fighting for that, and I hope you keep fighting for agricultural spaces.
Okay.
And I can see that you are, so thank you.
Hi. Tatiana Vasilopoulos, 5048 South University Drive. I hadn't planned on speaking because I have a stutter, but I had a few points that the others hadn't spoken about. As a I got a master's in biology, and something they had taught us in school is about saltwater intrusion. So the higher density housing creates a draw on the water table and allows for saltwater intrusion, which destroys the aquifer. So higher zoning of R5 isn't helping the situation. Some other things to consider with the population increase is the stress on the public resources, the fire, police, hospitals, emergency services, schools, as well. The average income for a Davie resident is $35,000 a year. So these houses aren't being built with the average Davie residents in mind. So that was all.
That's incorrect.
Good job.
But
Okay,
the
I'm
facts
gonna-
were incorrect. The facts were incorrect.
The what?
The average income for Davie resident isn't 30,000.
No, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, it's incorrect.
I'm closing the public hearing. Alan, I have to ask you a question, because we're going to take each one of these individual to vote on them. does all of this count as all of that public hearing?
Yes, Mayor. So actually, I'm glad you turned it over to me. So as council knows, each item will be voted upon individually. Everything we just heard will be in the record for each item. I want to reiterate, when voting for or against each item, council is to only consider the legal merits on each item as outlined in the town code.
Mayor?
Yes.
Some of the speakers had addressed several issues that may have needed some correction, as far as like the property isn't contaminated over in the other area. That's not why it's being cleared. It's not contaminated over in the other farm park site. It's just, I know that, I guess Mr. Holste could address that. But then there's others like the income amount of an average. I think somebody would like to know what the exact amount is for the town of Davie, and we have that. So we'd be able to correct those, that data if we want. And then I think preserving the record on several facts, because otherwise it preserves the record as if the speakers are speaking factually. And I know if we don't correct these going forward, then it preserves the record in the adverse with wrong information, and somebody can draw on that in the future. So I just think that as we go forward, there's a number of things that I wrote down that might need to be corrected on either side.
When would you like to do that?
No, you're the mayor.
No, I'm just
you
saying.
tell me. What do you think?
Do you want it addressed?
Mayor Rick, yeah, just a quick comment, and I appreciate, because I was going to speak to that too. Sometimes it gets misinterpreted
Yeah.
and they only hear certain parts of it, so I appreciate having the opportunity to correct. When I spoke, the land I had mentioned is elevated. It has had materials stored on it through the years, reaching that height. The soil is not contaminated. It's just not what the soil, the way they've crafted it through the years for their purposes, the way most farmers do. That soil in its current state, I would say, is not favorable for farming, which is why we needed to clear that land. But it's not contaminated. And there was a mention about stormwater. That land, I said, could have been suitable for the surrounding neighborhoods for stormwater in the future, depending on how much we're able to take onto the farm park piece. But it hasn't been identified for anything of that nature. And as far as the other comments about taxable values and so forth, it's a whole separate element. Under that, this was never meant, we're not concerned about the taxability for it. What I had mentioned was the use of the public aspect of it for private use of it on a public land triggers that ability for us to be able to have to make a compensation rather than receive it. So it was not anything to do with any monetary values for any agricultural properties, as you all know. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to correct that. I hope that clears that in.
And in addition, what is the average income level for?
I don't have it in front of me.
I
We
know
look
we
at a lot
have
of,
it.
last I heard around 65,000.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was closer to 72,000
Yeah,
the last I
last
saw.
time.
Is no further discussion, please.
They believe they're right. I don't know. It's not the median. We're talking median here. We're talking median.
Okay, Mr. Lemack made a thing. Okay, what we have here is something of great interest to a lot of people. We've already established that the town is committed to saving land for agriculture. That should not be a consideration, as the attorney said. We have to just look at the merits of the law, the legal points on each of the items that we're addressing. But I would like to mention that some of the things that were said, I encourage meetings between Mrs. McKenzie and 13th floor, as was suggested, in order to make whatever commitments that they're going to make. And because this is between those two individuals, it's not for the town to dictate to a private owner what to do with their land or how to do it. They have the right to sell that land and to sell it, in this case, to a developer that has a viable plan. We can't tell, some of the people came forth and said, well, tell them they can't sell the land. We can't do that. I think Mr. Hinden brought that up, that this is a free enterprise system where people have the right to sell their land. And I know personally, I was in on an awful lot of those projects that came across our desks for that property. And it was mentioned before, a big box, a Wawa, gas stations, drive-through, fast food. One of the housing developments that came in was like 300, what is it, 300 apartments or something like that. And, you know, either they saw that it wasn't going to make it, or they were, you know, the one Styles project that almost got to the voting stage went bye-byes because of the economy. And on all these occasions, it enabled the farmers to stay even longer. But I think they had to know deep down that at some point in time the land was going to be sold. So, and I think I see in a document that was spreading around that somebody from Three Amigos had written that we're not looking to, you know, deny the project. We're just looking to save agriculture. And I agree. And that's why the town is committed to finding a way. We've already done it to a certain extent at Mirando's. We've done it to a certain extent at Robbins. We're going to be doing it at the farm park. But this expansion piece, which we've now given Mr. Lemack the right to go ahead and start to work on, is an immediate assistance. Now, if Mrs. McKenzie and 13th floor can work out anything in relationship to moving topsoil or whatever it is that they think they need to do, that is between them. And hopefully that they will be successful. We got to remember the future land use on this property was commercial. And yes, it's a very unique property in this relation because it doesn't fit the parameters of any other property that would be deemed rezonable as one home per acre. It's a very difficult situation. You know, I have worked very hard to keep the Flamingo Road corridor as green as I could. As you can see, there's not been that much going on Flamingo Road. We've got things coming in for the north corner. We've had things coming in for those farmlands in the middle. And somebody made the statement, wow, if you got all these people here and you all got together and raised money to go and buy a piece of land, you'd have it forever. And all the people could come together. And, you know, the comment was made that they need a plan that would involve investors and so forth and so on. And so that's kind of like a good direction to be looking at. Because we are going to have other developments going on in the town. Look at all the open space we have. And stop and think of it. I can only think of one or two other communities that have any kind of farming in them. But if you look at our open space, and they talk about trees, we've got more open space per resident than any other community in Broward County. We have fought for years for trees, for open space. And as much as we can, within the parameters of the law, we have tried to preserve what best we could. We've purchased a lot of property, turned them into parks. I mean, if you look at Sunny Lake on the east side. That came in as a commercial development. They were going to fill the lake and build a horrendous commercial property there, which would have been wonderful because it was right next to the turnpike. The residents got together. The town was able to purchase the property, and we turned it into a bird sanctuary. So wherever we've had the ability, we've been able to do it. But we spent all our bond money already. We don't have any more bond money. Perhaps if people had been more active years ago when we were starting to talk about the farm park, and we had a 501c3 organization called Friends of the Farm Park, who were dying for people to come and volunteer and help them raise money, that had you been more proactive at that time, we may not, be talking about all these things at this point. But that being said, I'm going to take each piece separately. 20 is the site plan. Do you read that?
Yes, Mayor, and quasi is waived. Site plan SP21-352, Reserve at Davie.
Is there any discussion by council? No? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Motion passes.
21 is the plat. Mr. Reinfeldt, would you read the by?
Yes, Mayor. A resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, approving a plat known as Reserve at Davie, and authorizing the mayor and town clerk to acknowledge the approval by affixing the mayor's signature in the town seal to said plat, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Is there any discussion by council?
Ma'am.
Any question? Nope. Could I have a motion?
Motion to approve 21 for the plat.
Second it.
Roll call?
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Number 22 is the flex application. Would you please read that by title?
Yes, Mayor. A resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, approving flex application FX 22093, Reserve at Davie, for allocation of residential flexibility in accordance with Broward County Land Use Plan, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Are there any questions? Does everybody understand what the flex is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second it.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see.
26.
Well, I'm going to try to find them because they're not in order.
I know. We got to flip back and forth.
26 is the
Land use.
land use plan amendment. Mr. Weinthal, would you read it by title, please?
Yes, Mayor, and this is a supermajority required vote. Land Use Plan Amendment. An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, approving Land Use Plan Amendment application LA 21-348, Reserve at Davie, amending the Town of Davie Comprehensive Plan by changing the future land use map designation of certain lands from commercial and residential 1 DU an acre to irregular residential 2.3 DU an acre, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Any question?
Motion to approve.
Second.
No question? Okay. Roll call?
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And keep in mind, too, that understanding all of the comments and the issues which were taken to heart by the agricultural people that we're definitely going to be addressing, that the community, the majority of the community living right next to this project were in favor of this. I know I have some very dear friends that live there who have passed and who were very, very active in some of these projects. And I promised my friend on her deathbed that I would make sure that this property went the way her community wanted it to. And so that there's something very deep in here too for me. And I loved her very much, and her husband. Some of you that are here know who that I'm talking about. And so I just wanted to make that comment, that we're not taking this lightly. We don't take any of your comments lightly. But this is a very unique situation.
Mayor?
Yes.
On this point for the land use issue, you know, we all have been a part of this for over, many of us for probably the last 20 years on this particular property, and we know that the residents in the neighborhood, Laurel Oaks, had fought fiercely to try to, you know, not allow commercial development next to them, including even a B2, which was really probably, I mean, not even what they would really want. And I know, and I agree with the mayor that, you know, we looked very carefully over these proposals, as well as many of the comments that are from other residents in our town, not necessarily living near the comment. So, you know, in full disclosure, which I did not do and I will do now, my disclosure is that I have spoken to the applicant. I've spoken to the, you know, architect Pilar. I've spoken to residents. I've spoken to a lot of the farming community as well as residents in the town. I've received emails, texts, and phone calls on this. And as the mayor said, we don't take it lightly. We really cared what was being said, even this evening. And I also appreciate the civility of which many of you came forward and expressed your interest and concerns on the farming community as well. And I appreciate that you did that. But I also have to say that the proposal is supported widely by the community that lives closest to it, that will have to live with it in the future. And we weigh that strongly in whatever comes before us. And so I had to disclose those comments for public record as well.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 30, which is the rezoning. This is the first reading. There'll be a final reading on August 17th.
Yes, Mayor, this is also a supermajority.
Thank you. You read it by title, please.
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, approving rezoning application ZB21-349 Reserve at Davie, changing the zoning designation of certain lands within the Town of Davie from agriculture to low-medium dwelling district, amending the town zoning map to comply therewith, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Any comment? Let me remind everybody, even though it says R5 here, they're committed to 2.3, and that was just established, so that's taken care of. Is there any questions?
Nope.
I'm just a little upset with what I said before. I'm sorry.
That's why I jumped in.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
You want a motion?
You want?
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
Motion to approve rezoning. 30. Number
Is there
30.
a second?
Seconded.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey,
Yes.
Mayor Paul,
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, 31 and 32 are variances. On 31, Mr. Weinthal, would you please read the title?
Yes, Mayor. A resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, taking final action on variance application V21-350 Reserve at Davie, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I think it was I had concerns originally too about the variances, and when it was, I looked at the maps and I saw clearly what the reasoning was. It was very, very logical, because of the fact that they were either on corners
Yeah.
or had two streets on either side.
Mhm.
So I can't see any objection on this particular one, on either of these. Any questions on this, sir? Did you read it? Did you read 31?
I
I'm
read
sorry.
31, yes, ma'am.
I'm a little.
Can we do 31 and 32 together?
And do we have a,
No.
did we have
Have
a
to be
motion?
done separately.
Yeah, we're going to do it now. Motion to approve.
Okay, that's fine.
Motion to approve item 31.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
And is there a second?
Seconded.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Number 32 is also variance. Mr. Weinthal, if you read that.
Yes, Mayor. A resolution, the Town of Davie, Florida, taking final action on variance application V22053, reserve at Davie, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Any questions or concerns? I have a motion.
Motion to approve 32 variance.
Seconded, Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Let me remind everyone, as you're leaving tonight, be involved. We've got the Agricultural Board that you can go to. We'll actually ask the Ag Board to invite some of you to a meeting to present a plan or to present some ideas that they can discuss and research. And I know you have a number of people on the Ag Board that are very, very close to the interests of the farmers. And that's why, agriculture. So I would encourage you to do that. How many people in here that are farmers are members of the Farm Bureau?
Not one.
Yeah, no, there's some hands going up.
Huh?
Two.
Up, 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 up.
Yeah, that's another thing. You know, the
two
Farm
people.
Bureau,
Exactly.
Broward County Farm Bureau is one of the largest farm bureaus in Florida. And we have a very active Farm
Yes.
Bureau.
Very active.
You should try to get involved in the Farm Bureau and see how they can possibly help in relationship to grants and funding and things like that. So there's a lot of organizations out there that you can tap into right now. And if you're a farmer and you're not a member of the Farm Bureau, you're missing out on a lot. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do, and I would recommend that you stay on top of it. And if you want to come to council and during the open speak and bring something up again, feel free. But again, I encourage you, and I look forward to you having a very successful meeting, Mr. Backman and Ms. McKenzie, and hopefully that you can come to a good resolution of the situation. I appreciate that. Thank you. No, that's not true. Who on the Ag Board said that? What happens is, no, it's the Ag Board. I shouldn't be taking question from but the Ag Board makes recommendations to me. Well, no, they send it to me as the mayor, and then I bring it forward at a meeting for discussion and support. So if anybody on the Ag Board said that you should come to me first, they were incorrect. It's their recommendation that comes to me. Okay? So I'm expecting to hear from you again and to see you around. Okay, thank you very much for your interest. And thank you again, as Susan said, for your civility. A lot of times some of these things can get very emotional and difficult, and you handled yourselves beautifully, and it made it a lot easier all around for all of us to be able to listen to everybody's comments. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to take, I got to figure out where I am. I want to take the Nova one next. Which number is that? 34? Didn't you enjoy your... Do you get paid by the hour?
Is this on?
Is that why you asked to go last?
I'm gonna ask. Oh,
I was going to bring it up. Yes, I mentioned it, didn't I? But Rick... Okay, 34 is a variance, and Mr. Weinthal, would you read the title?
Yes, Mayor. A resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, taking final action on various application V22016 NSU archway sign, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
This is a public hearing. Anybody that wishing to speak for or against the item should come forward at this point.
good evening, Nectaria Chalkis with the firm Lockery and Chalkis on behalf of NSU. I have with me representatives of NSU as well as a representative from Craven Thompson who handled a lot of the plans that are before you this evening. We're requesting a variance for what we are calling the archway sign. It's a main entry feature to NSU. It is a very beautiful archway sign, but unfortunately your code does not address archway signs, and as a result, due to the height of the sign, we are before you this evening to request a variance. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm happy to go through to show you the sign. It is in your plans, and we've submitted some backup materials. I know it's been a long night for you, so I wanted to offer to do the PowerPoint presentation, or alternatively, I'll be happy to just address any questions you may have.
I've seen it in the backup. I don't think we need to see it. Does anybody have any questions? No questions, so if you don't mind, I'll request, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry you had to wait there.
I tried before.
I know, if you'd gotten into me a little faster.
I tried.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, now we got to backtrack.
We're on 23.
23? Oh.
23, Capital Improvement Program.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything else that's not staff-driven? Any other,
I don't
no,
believe so, Mayor.
I think it's all, okay. All right. 23 is the Capital Improvement Program Resolution. Mr. Weinthal, would you read the resolution by title?
Yes, Mayor. A resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, approving the Third Amendment to the 10-year capital improvements program for the Town of Davie for fiscal years 2022 through 2031, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
If any member of the public, this is a public hearing, is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or discussions from council? No. Okay. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve 23 Capital Improvements Program.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Motion passes.
24.
Number 24, the CDBG Action Plan. Mr. Weinthal, would you read the resolution by title?
Yes, Mayor. A resolution of the Town of Davie, Florida, adopting the Community Development Block Grant Action Plan for fiscal year 2022 through 2023, which includes the Community Development Block Grant Program budget, authorizing the Town Administrator to execute all necessary certifications and grant-related documents, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns? This is a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak for or against it can come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I already asked you if you could.
Yes,
I was a
you did.
little ahead of myself. Could I have a motion to approve and a
Motion
second?
to approve CDBG action plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Paul,
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton,
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much. Going on to code item. This is the second and final reading. Mr. Weinthal, would you read the ordinance by title, please?
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, amending the following provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Davie, Florida, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Boards and Committees, Section 2-72, Board and Committee Membership, Section 2-73, Advisory Board and Committees, creating Section 2-73G, Public Art Advisory Committee, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak for or against can come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or discussion? Now, keep in mind that we're going to vote on this as revised. You got a little memo. There was a revision. So can I have a motion to approve
As
the
revised.
code amendment with the revision?
Michelle?
Michelle,
You
you
want
want
to
to
do it or not? Make the motion.
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve the code amendment.
Second.
As revised.
As revised.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Paul,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman,
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, am I doing right? 27 next?
Yes, Mayor.
Code amendment.
Jeez.
This is a second and final reading,
The second and final reading will be held on August 3rd.
August 3rd, okay.
A ordinance on the Town of
Yeah,
Davie.
please read the title.
An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, amending the following sections of Chapter 12 Land Development Code, Article 3 Use Regulations, Section 12-33 General Regulations, Section 12-34 Standards for Specific Uses, Article 5 Development Standards, Section 12-88 Exceptions to Minimum Yard Requirements, Article 6 Site Landscaping, Tree Preservation, and Land Clearing, Article 10 Planning and Development, Division 2 Rezonings, Text Amendments, Special Permits, Variances, and Vacations or Abandonments of Right-of-Way, Division 6 Temporary Use Permits, Article 12 Subdivisions, Site Plans, and Certificates of Use, Article 13 Special Planning Areas and Districts, Division 12 Transit-Oriented Corridor, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak may come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any questions or concerns? May I have a motion to approve Code Amendment 27?
Motion to approve code amendment number 27.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Whitman,
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey,
Yes.
Mayor Paul,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. '28 is a code amendment. Mr. Weinthal, would you please read the amendment by title?
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, amending the following sections of Chapter 12 Land Development Code, Article 8 Signs, Lighting, Section 12-239 Placement and Design of Permanent Signs, Section 12-245 Non-Conforming Signs, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. There's the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak for or against this, you can come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions or concern? May I have a motion to approve 28 code amendment?
Motion to approve 28 code amendment.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. There's another ordinance. This is the second and final reading. Number 29 is the rezoning of the Edge property. Mr. Weinthal, has it been waived?
Quasi has been waived, yes,
Okay.
Mayor.
Would you please read the ordinance by title?
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the Town of Davie, Florida, approving rezoning application ZB22-058, The Edge, changing the zoning designation of certain lands within the Town of Davie from Griffin Corridor State Road 7 Node to Transit-Oriented Corridor South District, amending the town zoning map to comply therewith, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak may come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or discussion by council? May I have a motion to approve the rezoning for the Edge?
Motion to approve 29 rezoning for the Edge.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Starkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Hatton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Yes.
Mayor Paul?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
That's it, right?
Am I done?
Yes, Mayor.
I
we're
didn't
done.
miss anything?
No.
Okay.
You did good.
I did good this time. Okay, this closes the public hearing portion of the meeting. We'll move on. Are there any appointments for any committees or boards? Susan?
We're not there yet. Do you want to do unsafe structure yet?
Well, that's next.
Okay. I'll wait.
Is
I
that
didn't
what
know if you were taking any.
And so 36 is the Unsafe Structures Board term renewals. You have a copy of that in front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
We need to each take each one individually, and then we can have a voice vote. Is there anybody that has,
I'm
Are we
sorry.
short two people, Mayor?
yeah, the two people did not respond. So I don't know if anybody knows if
Okay,
they're going to
makes sense.
retry.
Right.
What?
Yeah, that's the one. I did speak to Edgar Wolslayer. He is unable to serve. They've moved, even though his son lives here.
Oh.
They've moved. So in his place, he recommended, as well as I would, Stuart Lieberman. I forwarded or asked on Friday, but I understand Evelyn's out of town, for her to forward the application to him. But he's been a licensed real estate appraisal for many, many years. And so I would recommend him if you want to go ahead and vote, or do you want to wait and see
Actually, I
his
think
application?
you need to do a background, right, first? Don't you have to check on the individual before?
You can appoint him, and then I can send
Subject
him
to-
the paperwork, subject to getting all of his
Okay.
paperwork and processing
All right,
him.
so when we do him, it'll be subject to the paperwork.
All right, and I did try to reach out to Jim Engelwager. I don't know, maybe he'll call me back again. We'll see, but I did try to reach out to him as
Okay.
well. I'll keep trying, but not at this time.
Okay. All right, so let's take the electrical contractor. Can I have a motion to reappoint Danny Bailey?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say yes?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes,
Sorry.
aye, same thing. Aye, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. May I have a motion to approve Todd Evans?
So moved.
I second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. May I have a motion to approve Ted Griffin?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. No response. May I have a motion to approve Alan Konisberg,
So moved.
attorney?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's passed. Have a motion to approve Daniel Laverick,
So moved.
engineer.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Motion to
Approve
Stuart
Lieberman,
Lieberman.
subject to the paperwork. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nope.
That's unanimous. May I have a motion to approve Stanley Schnackney?
So moved.
Second it.
There's a second. Oh, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. And then may I have a motion to approve Mark Engel?
So moved.
Second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How often does this group meet?
Yeah, rarely.
They don't.
As needed.
That's needed, that's a good one.
It's an as needed.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been quite some
If
time.
we have an unsafe structure,
I would-
that's the determination of our building department, our engineer and our structural and electrical engineer, correct?
Right. A lot of these matters have been handled through the code magistrate process, and I only recall maybe one time in the last 11 years that we've used the unsafe structure code.
Okay, we don't meet.
I
but-
could be
because
mistaken. I don't know, Phil, if.
To me, there's only 5 people on here that are qualified to be on here. You need to be a contractor, or you need to be an architect or an engineer. No one else is really qualified to be on an unsafe structure,
Well,
in my opinion.
but it says that it
That's
calls
a contractor, that's okay.
electrical contractor, a citizen, a
That's
master
fine. He should
plumber.
do- Electrical contractor's good, it could be electrical problem that makes it unsafe. That's fine.
So why are you saying that nobody's qualified?
You have property manager, you have attorneys, you have real estate appraiser. I'm sorry.
That's what the charter says.
But-
It requires it.
Aren't those included in the code?
Yep.
What, who's going to be represented? They don't all have to be.
I'm just saying, I hate to take up the time for this, but I just don't think they're qualified to be on the board.
Those specific positions are stipulated
Yes.
for this board, yeah, in the code. So that's why they're listed on here. They need to meet those specific criteria.
Citizen would be necessary, and
If it meets once every 11 years, I think that's not, that's probably moved
yeah,
anyway.
but the time we need it, Marlon,
Yeah.
it won't be in order, so.
Yeah, so,
One time we need a unsafe structure, man.
if you meet once every 11 years, it doesn't really matter who's on the board, I guess.
Let's hope so.
Okay. Ah. Let's see, there are no committee recommendations. We did old business. No new business. We'll see you next week again, folks. It's so much fun. We do it every week. And that'll be open speak again next week.
Don't tell them.
She can't do that.
Okay.
When I said no more,
We're up
she can't do
to
that either.
mayor and council member comments. I got a couple of things here.
Even though it says it.
I just had I think we discussed it, but I don't remember. I think it's yes, but I didn't remember. Are we going to petition to the county to extend the life of the CRA?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Mayor, that's a conversation that we're going to have in the near future.
Oh, okay.
But no, we have not had any formal.
Oh, I know that, but was that something that would come up at a future
Yeah, we'll-
town, what do they call it, the vision and goal setting session?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
But we'll have more conversation on it.
Okay, well, how much time is needed to process that?
We're in the early stages of conducting some research and some
Okay,
analysis for
That's what
that.
I figured, okay.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate that. I have a letter here from the Broward County Historic Preservation Board looking for the town to select someone, to nominate someone for Pioneer of the Year. In the past, the old Davie School has nominated individuals. And the Pioneer Day event will be hosted by the City of Wilton Manors on October 15th, 2022 at noon. So in case, I'll give this also to, I'm going to give it to Phil because there's going to be a preservation board meeting tomorrow And I wanted to get some input from you. There's a enclosed pioneer, there's nomination forms for, and they need biographical data no later than August 15th. That's why it needs to be done at tomorrow's meeting.
Isn't Danny?
But also somebody to nominate an individual as a Pioneer of the Year from Davie. Then there are 4 other awards. One is presented to a person or group devoted to the study and/or promotion of local history. One is an award presented to a person or group that have published works highlighting our local history and/or historical research. There's one, the Historic Preservation Board Special Award is presented to a person or group who have contributed to the mission of the Broward County Historic Preservation Board. And then there's the Stuart P. McIver Historians Award. This award is presented to a person or group who has contributed to the mission of historic property conservation, restoration, rehabilitation, or presentation. And I was thinking maybe we should nominate the Women's Club for that.
I was thinking of nominating you.
I'm already a pioneer.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Isn't Danny, is Danny in the,
Here's
on the
my,
committee,
here's
right?
my button right on my
Okay,
hat.
and that would be wonderful. They would truly appreciate that. We've been working very hard to restore our clubhouse
And, you know, is anybody, I don't know if they've been picked before.
How about Priscilla? I don't know if she's well enough, but Priscilla Tinsley, Tyndall.
And then,
Kim at Old Davie School for her book and
Yeah, that's
publishing.
the one. that
yeah,
was here.
Kim at
Yeah,
the
she-
Old
that-
Davie School, I
That
got
was,
that.
that would be a good one.
And, oh God, their name just went by.
From where?
The couple that used to
Tommy
have the
Gill.
nursery.
Absolutely, Tommy Gill. Yeah.
He might be already in it.
He might have.
He might be.
Been nominated before.
He would be good.
What about the, the nursery on the 50, huh?
All camp?
No. Right now, they're on the Old Davie School Board. Gosh, I'm like a blank. Somebody help me. It'll come to me. And it's a husband and wife, and they had a McCalls.
Nicole.
The McCalls.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, very good.
I think, didn't they get it before too? I think we were at
Well, we
Town
can find
Hall when
out.
they
Well,
did.
that's, I'm.
Yeah, check on it. If
So,
not, yeah.
although they're here, we can go back and check and see if either of them have gotten that already. And if not, it'll give them something to work with, okay? Very good. Thank you for your input. This is for you, Mr. Holstick, okay? I should have done this at the last meeting, and I forgot. But just to let you know, the allocation that we got from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, forget it. $714,000, $73, that is being available amounts for the community block grant. So we got that. I got a very nice email. I should have done this at the last meeting too. Thank you, Town of Davie, Mayor Paul and Town Administrators. We wanted to express our thanks to the Community Services Division for the assistance we were provided under your SHIP program. Your program was a real blessing to us, and we want you to know that we are extremely grateful for all the work that was done on our home. We want to express our thanks for Jael Martinez, Alicia Morgan, and Inspector William Lamar Ruffin for going above and beyond to provide the best service possible. Thanks for the wonderful communication and support throughout the project. We also want to thank our contract, Nyron Manboard of Fundamental Engineering and Instruction, for his friendly demeanor, recommendations, and the work that was done. Nyron and his team were very professional. He kept us informed of every step in the process, and we would highly recommend his services. Thank you again. Warm regards from Winston and Rhonda, Delaware.
Nice.
Or Delaware. I thought, it's always so nice to get a thank you that it's, I appreciate it. And I'll give you a copy of this so that you have more information for the minutes, because I know sometimes you skirt over those things. Not by, not a complaint. And also at the last meeting, we had a major rain event that we had just gone through, and I was going to thank Osdell. He was out on the street cleaning drains. I mean, he really gets out there, and
He does.
I'll call him up and say something. He says, "I'm right there, Mayor. I'm standing here. I'm looking at it. I'm working on it now." So that's we appreciate your hands-on. That's very commendable for a director to be out there with his staff. We appreciate it. Okay. Also, I've been requested by the Conference of Mayors to sign on to a letter, and before I do that, I always ask for your opinion. And this is to permit me to sign on through the Conference of Mayors the bipartisan marriage equality bill that is presently before Congress.
Got my vote.
Mhm. Okay. I will do that tomorrow then. Thank you. That's on my to-do list. I think that's what I've got. Vice Mayor.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It is so lovely to be back from the summer break. I only have a few items. Last week, we were notified by the Department of Health that there was a case of rabies in Davie. An animal with rabies can infect humans and domestic animals not vaccinated against the disease. I'm asking everyone to avoid interacting with all wildlife so as not to be exposed. We have the back-to-school sales tax holiday is ongoing through August 7th. With school starting in a couple of weeks, now is the best time to get those much-needed items for school. The discount can be applied to clothing, footwear, accessories, computers, or electronic devices. We are doing our part here in the town to help with collecting school supplies. The town back-to-school drive is ongoing and ends on August 8th. If you are interested in participating, please drop off your items at Town Hall, Pine Island Multipurpose Center, the Fitness and Aquatic Center, and the Davie Police and Fire Department Administration buildings. We are collecting supplies including markers, crayons, glue sticks, composition books, and a host of other items. The drive is in partnership with the Rick and Rita Case Boys and Girls Club, Florence A. DeGeorge Unit Boys and Girls Club, and Davie Police Athletic Leagues, PAL. The complete list of acceptable items and locations is available on our website. We have been getting quite a bit of rain for the past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, the excessive rain may prompt an increase in mosquitoes around your property. To help prevent mosquitoes from developing into adulthood, please drain any containers or plants around your property that may have standing water. You can also contact the mosquito control by dialing 311 on your cell phone or 954-765-4062 from a landline. And last but not least, wishing all those July babies a happy birthday. That's all, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm going to be very, very brief and not cut out about 90% of what I was going to say. I was going to go on and talk about the farm park and different things, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to. But there's one thing that Mr. Lemack said tonight that caught my attention, and I had never realized it. But the 21 acres there that I bought through that bond there for the farm park, that doesn't come under the auspices of the farm park. So we could do a name different than Leroy Collins if we so choose, couldn't we?
I believe so. I don't think that would run affront to any of the bond covenants.
Well, I just putting it out there. I have some ideas, and we'll talk about it later, but I just thought, I always felt like we bought that land, and then we were told we had to name it after somebody, which I think the person is great, but I just thought there were people in the town that should have got honor that weren't able to, and I think that this gives us an opportunity to do something, and I just wanted to put it out there.
Council member, I'll add is when the town bought the land from the Ryan family, that was a request for it to be named Governor Leroy Collins. That was the first 53 acres. The other 32 acres that was bought from Southern Homes, that had no such request, so
We could do it.
you could do that.
Okay.
Good.
Karen?
Listen to him.
He's
all
He's very
giggling.
giggly tonight. It's very unusual. Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things to share with my council. As you know, I've taken your place on the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Very interesting. When I arrived at my place, as you know, that place is incredible.
Yeah.
These were there. Everybody got one specifically to their municipality. So of course, this one says Municipal Reports Davie. Instead of having it run off and for everybody to see, I have here the websites for anybody that's interested in seeing it. I have a copy if you really want to look at it. It's showing all the transportation improvement programs that we were given, that was done in our town and are still being done. And it's very interesting. It has the address, the funds, the agency, the work, what was done, where it was done, Griffin Road from State Road 7 to 441 to Angles Alley. It has everything in there. So we can see what's been done and what we've gotten. The second thing that I'm going to bring next week is also from the MPO, and I just didn't grab it today. There's a new program on transportation, which is very exciting, have a new name, and it's going to be talking about the east-west connections, north-south, east-west, and how we can get from Sawgrass Mills down to Broward Boulevard, down to the Museum of Art, and very interesting, really, really interesting and thoughtful, I think. So they're trying to get ideas from everybody there and all the municipalities. And we've talked about that years ago, like something going down 595 or something coming down Broward Boulevard. And they asked a question, if you had to, as I call it, get dehorsed and your car's taken away, how would I get to Sawgrass Mills from where I am in East Davie? And my neighbor, who is legally blind and takes all public transportation, including Davie, she knows all the routes, and she knows exactly what bus to take to go to Broward, to go out to Sawgrass. I wouldn't know that. I mean, I really wouldn't. It'd take me a while. So there's a lot of interest in the MPO of using money to find a way so that things can get to transportation hubs. And there's a new name for it, which is, I don't want to say it unless I have it right. So I'll bring that back next week. Very interesting. I'm finding it very interesting. Thank you for pointing me that. The second thing I want to talk is I've gotten some phone calls and some young people that have called me for political interest and things, and one of them said to me, "Oh, you're with Davie?" I said, "Yes." She says, "What do you know about the Mayor's Public Affairs Academy?" Right out of the blue. "Oh, I know a lot about that. What do you want to know?" So I said, "If you give me your name and your address, I'll pass it on to the Mayor's liaison." And so I did that. That's the second person. The jeweler's daughter wanted to know about it, and this person. So Mayor Paul's Affairs Academy Public Affairs Academy would like students to apply now to be part of the academy, because hopefully it'll be starting up again. These students went to Western High School, and they were very interested in politics and in finding out about government. And you had something else you wanted to say about it. You told me.
No, I was just going to say that we need to get an early start on it this year to make sure that it happens. We kind of lost
the pandemic
last year and the year before. We tried to start something last year and it never panned out. So what we need to do is really get an early start. And these two individuals, if they're, because it was always limited to Mr. Levinson's classes, because he had the advanced and whatever else, the other honors classes.
Yeah.
And we always opened it up as long as you lived in Davie. Even if you went to another school like Heritage or whatever, you could apply if you were a Davie resident. So we did get, one year we got someone that was from Nova, and then someone from College Academy, I think, was in it one year. So we have to get that word out as well early on. So, but I appreciate that you brought that
It was
up.
just like out of the blue. I went, "Oh,
Yeah, just give the names to Grace, and then she'll pass them on. Is Leona, you handling that again?
Yeah, I give them to Leona, right? She just
Thank
woke up.
Susan, you're on.
Okay, thank you. Every year we have funding that we're requesting from the school board to fund additionally funding towards an SRO in every school. The Florida statute that was passed that directed the health, safety, and welfare of all their students also prescribes that you have an SRO after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. You have an SRO in every school. So both the City of Lauderhill as well as Sunrise recently passed a resolution requesting that the state of Florida and Broward County School Board provide such funding for SROs, all 100%. I know that we not only fund it through our budget, but we also get reimbursed by some grant fundings that also comes in. So that does help, offset it, but it doesn't do that for every school in Broward County. And so what I would like to do on the next agenda is ask if staff could prepare a resolution asking for the same and following suit. What we would hope to have done is pass all the cities in Broward County with the board of directors for the League of Cities also passing a resolution, but we would like to get a few more resolutions passed first before we brought it forward. And I'm also going to bring it at the state when we meet in August for our League of Cities at the state level. So I kind of want to have a couple of resolutions under my belt so they could pass it as well. So that's one. If you support that, I'll give it to Mr.
Yeah, I was
Lemack
just
to
going to
work
say,
on.
let Mr. Lemack look into it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lemack. I'll forward you, if I haven't already, I'll forward it to you. And then I also want to thank
I was going to say, give it to Grace. And
Silver Ridge
send it to
Elementary
everybody.
School, and there were 4 Davie elementary schools and a middle school that all got provided with snacks and snack packages from Hope Outreach. So it was one of those opportunities where they actually gave it to the schools for those snacks during the summer, and they were very grateful at the schools that happened. And a lot of those contributions that we donated to Hope Outreach came from the town of Davie and our employees as well as our residents, because I know many of our residents that also supported that. So please continue to donate to Hope Outreach because they continue to fund those projects or supply those supplies to the schools, as well as our other 3 2 boys and girls clubs in PAL. So it really works for everybody all around for these snacks for the kids. Governor Ron DeSantis reappointed Jeanette Nunez and Jeanette Rubio to the statewide Council on Human Trafficking. And I want to just say that I've been following it, and they've really done a really good job over the past, since 2018, when it was first put together. And the statewide Council on the Human Trafficking, there's so many, we're like number 3 in the country or number 2 in the country in human trafficking, which is not where we want to be. That means you're the worst. And I understand some of the dynamics of the reporting, because the more effort you put in to help combat such a thing, your statistics go up. So that's really kind of what we're seeing as a reflection of it as well. But I think it's time to really kick it up and make sure that our town is training the appropriate staff members. I know we do a good job training our police department, but maybe a coordinated effort between the fire inspections, as well as code enforcement and other departments that may happen to stumble upon situations that they see that could be potentially a human trafficking situation. A lot of the stuff we're looking at, even in the vacation rental homes, I testified before the House and the Senate committees on this, and they find that in these vacation rental homes, they're renting these for the purposes of trafficking, and they're moving people around pretty quickly because they only have to take a week or 2 lease and then they move them again. So that's another area that I'd like y'all to follow and look into. And I appreciate, I don't know if Adam Granite is still our human trafficking liaison to Broward counties. Chief, do you know?
What's the name?
Adam Granite?
Granite.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll make sure he also gets a little bit more information on this as well. And maybe we can have the Truckers Against Trafficking again at the truck stop, because I think that also helped bring awareness to it in Davie's truck stop. So I think we should kind of look into it some more, so thank you.
Mayor, I have one thing I didn't get to say. But you didn't. I just want to say that the absentee ballots have come out in the mail, and you can, as soon as you get them, fill them out and send them in. Whatever is your proclivity, please vote. get out and vote.
Thank you. Good reminder. I just wanted to say one other thing about feral cats. You know, we do have an issue on a lot of private properties where people are feeding cats where they shouldn't be. And so people that feed cats, we commend you on your wanting to do that. But what happens is they bring cats to properties and feed them when they're technically trespassing. So you've got to be very careful. Plus, now that we have this cat colony that has rabies, it's very concerning, and need to be very, very careful what you're doing.
There's a couple that used to be on University Drive several years ago that we got reported. They would lay out the food behind the Midas place there, and they feed them. And then the neighbors were complaining that the cats were running into their garage, coming into their house, being very friendly. So,
well, they shouldn't be feeding them
Absolutely
on somebody
not.
else's property.
Right.
That's the number one thing.
We got to.
Okay. Mr. Lemack.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of quick things, but I just wanted to mention, I think Council Member Starkey probably had a right number. I looked up data, census.gov, and it came back at 74,523 for the median household income.
I know I was right. Actually, the one I showed Carol, I looked it up while I was on the phone. It was 71,777.
71.7.
So I knew it was 72,000.
Yeah, as I said, they
I just
fluctuate.
rounded up to
Depends
72,000.
what statistical information, but I just wanted, we're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
I did have three things update. So you've been off through the summer. I just wanted to give you some good information.
What summer? What off? Okay, never mind.
I want to talk about Take a Kid Fishing. Just an update. The annual event was postponed, if you recall, due to the impacts of Tropical Storm Alex. It was rescheduled for Saturday, June 25th at the golf course. 86 children participated. Many of them caught fish, catfish, brim, cichlid, and bass. And every child received a T-shirt, goodie bag, lunch, and raffle tickets. July 4th. We haven't had a chance since then. The resident-only event was a great success. We had 1,200 families pre-registered, had children's activities, large music. You were all there, so I'm just paraphrasing, for the public. And food trucks, fireworks. Parking was maximized on the sports complex and along 36th Avenue. We parked over 1,000 vehicles, had an estimated 6,000 people in attendance, and we received some incredibly great feedback from those who attended, and I appreciated that the focus was on the priority to their hometown.
And when I went home, the line of cars parked on Orange Drive was very noticeable. So there was a lot more people enjoying the fireworks.
Great. And lastly, the ACT Murder Mystery Dinner Theater. They hosted a new performance on Friday, July 8th at Robbins Lodge. The interactive murder mystery dinner theater featured a 3-course meal followed by an interactive performance that required audience participation. We received very positive feedback from everyone, and they're looking forward to planning future events. That's all I have for you. I just wanted to give you the update.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Parks and Rec Week was so successful.
Yeah, very good job.
Yeah, good job.
Mr. Weinthal.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Then if there are no objections,
Thank you.
we're adjourned.